Calling the meeting to order. I just want to say good evening. It's so wonderful to see everybody, to see all of your faces. So pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, public notice of this meeting has been given by the board secretary in the following manner. Posting written notice on the official bulletin board at the Voorhees Township Public Schools Administrative Building on July 26, 2021, August 24th, 2021, and December 3rd, 2021. Sending written notice to the Courier Post on July 26, 2021, August 24th, 2021, and December 3rd, 2021. Filing written notice with the clerk of the Voorhees Township on July 26, 2021, August 24th, 2021, and December 3rd, 2021. Posting on the Voorhees Township website on July 26, 2021, August 24th, 2021, and December 3rd, 2021. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first we're going to do the oath of office. For Dr. Falk. Yep.
Dr. Falk, please rise, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name,
I, Scott Falk,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in the United States
established in the United States
and this state
and this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I state your full name,
I, Scott Falk,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
am not disqualified as a voter
am not disqualified as a voter
pursuant to RS 19:4-1,
pursuant to RS 19:4-1,
am not disqualified
am not disqualified
due to a conviction of a crime or offense
due to conviction of a crime or offense
listed in NJSA 18A:12-1,
listed in NJSA 18A:12-1,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of that office
all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
We need to do an acknowledgement of the receipt of the Code of Ethics. Have you received that?
I have.
Excellent. Ms. Haley, will you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Bryce?
Here.
Mrs. Cosenza?
Here.
Dr. Falk?
Here.
Ms. Galliano?
Here.
Dr. Levy?
Here.
Mr. Schmus?
Here.
Mrs. Stupler? Here. Mrs. Watson?
Here. We'll now take nominations for Board Vice President.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Schmus.
A second.
Oh, I mean, I could nominate myself, right? Oh, I nominate myself.
Then we would vote to close the nominations. We would have to get a motion for second and
Can I get a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, online voting is open to close the nominations for vice president. All are in favor of closing the nominations?
So we're going to take, we're going to first vote on the first nomination, correct?
Right, we'll
Okay.
run through the first nomination. So the vote will be in the order of the nominations that were made. So it'll be Mr. Schmuse first. So we'll open the motion, and depending on whether it's majority or not, then we would move to the second nomination.
Okay.
Okay, can I have, I'm sorry.
So the first vote will be for Mr. Schmuse for vice president.
We would need a first and second. Motion to.
Motion,
They already had it.
no, we already had the
Oh,
motion.
Okay, so
Yeah.
use that as it? Okay,
Yes.
so hold on one second. Let me just put that in there then. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to use Dr. Levy and Mrs. Stupler then for the first and second, because I didn't get a second on the first one.
I seconded.
Okay, sorry, okay. All right, so now the vote can be taken. All the votes are in. I'll read them off. There's yeses by Mr. Bryce, Mrs. Cosenza, Dr. Falk, Ms. Galliano, Dr. Levy, Mr. Schmuse, and Mrs. Watson, and a no by Mrs. Stupler. So that's 6, or I guess we have 8 people now, don't we? So it's 7-1, and then motion carries for Vice President, Mr. Schmuse.
Congratulations, Mr. Schmuse. We are going to move on to the board vacancy. We are going to follow the same process, but I want to be clear what that process, there are 2 minor modifications. We have 5, is it going to be 6 or
We have 6 total.
Is the
Just
one
online.
going to be online? Okay, so we have 5 individuals in person. We have 1 individual online. Each individual will come up, will do their presentation. We will have 4 individuals, and I just realized that that email did not go out. We will have 4 individuals that will ask questions of the candidate, and then the candidate, when they're finished, they will remain in the room after they have done their presentation. Then the next candidate will come up. The candidates who are not presenting will be sequestered until they come present. Once they present, they will stay in the room. After everyone has presented, including the individual online, then we will hold open board comments. We will deliberate in open public forum. I welcome all of the board members to share their thoughts on their respective candidates. Then we will take nominations and we will vote in order of the nominations. Everybody clear? Okay, we will start the interview process. Trisha will take, who's the first person?
We're going to do the first person, that's the online person.
Okay,
So if all the other candidates could follow Mrs. Milady back to our demo room, that would be great. And the online person will interview first. And then we'll bring each of you out one by one, and you can stay to hear the rest of the interviews.
I'm gonna need 1 second. So that
Sorry, you're going to be asked to join as a panelist in a moment. I need you to click the blue button.
I know, and we haven't clarified the questions. I am gonna send an email in 1 second.
Okay, got it.
You should be able to unmute and address the board now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you may also turn on your camera if you wish.
No, I will do that. Hi.
You're good to go.
Are you ready yet or not? Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, hi. Thank you for having me do this remotely. We seem to have a little bit of a bug going around the house. My name is Rocky Desai. I am running for the open board vacancy at the time. I have an extensive background in education, leading all the way back to elementary, currently at the university level. I have 2 children at Signal Hill that are coming up in the school system. So, you know, I do have a pulse on the day-to-day, which I think would be helpful as a member of the board. I also do believe I represent a very large and growing community in Voorhees, which I think would be beneficial for the board as well as the community to have.
Perfect. Is that the end of your presentation?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second. I apologize. We have not, give maybe 1 second. I am apologize.
Sure.
Mhm.
Marissa, can you ask the same DEI question? Shorter version of it.
Okay, board members, I just sent an email out with the questions. I apologize. Okay. Randy, you are, can you get your,
Yeah, I got it,
okay,
yeah.
it's your question, the first
Yeah,
one.
thank you.
Okay,
No, I see.
perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, thank you again for joining us. What do you think is the most important responsibility of a board member?
I think as a board member, because we are part of making such important decisions, we need to take account into all sides of whatever issue is on the table. I don't believe the board is always going to win per se. There's always going to be people that are disappointed, but I do think if we take into account the thoughts and ideas of other people and at least try to bridge that gap a little bit, you know, it would be very beneficial. So I do think while it's a tough position, we need to be open to hearing all sides of the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight or being with us this evening. Can you please explain what unique characteristic you would bring to the board?
I think what would be unique with having me on the board is definitely my background because it is very varied, anywhere from education to, all my various positions, as you've seen on my resume. I think I bring a lot of differences together. I know how to talk to and deal with different types of personalities, and I feel like that would be extremely helpful to be on the board.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. The third question for you is, can you please describe your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including race and gender identity?
Yes, absolutely. I believe they're all extremely important. I think we live in a very diverse community. I think from an early age, we need to educate our students on all of these matters. And to be honest, especially when it comes to gender identity, families that may not have dealt with it before, they may not know how to talk to their children about it or understand it fully themselves. I think it's important also to educate adults and parents, put out the information so that they can learn and understand it better, and therefore have better conversations with their children on all of these topics, because they're also very important.
Thanks so much.
Kelly, you're up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
Sure. My philosophy on leadership, which inherently goes into institutional culture, is open communication. I think as a leader, it's very important that you are able to communicate, listen to people, understand, make sure that they feel heard and acknowledged, take what they have to say, and in turn, be able to respond in a way that is doing what you need to do, but also making sure people understand that they've been heard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bearing with me. We had a little snafu. That was my mistake. But we appreciate your time, and we hope that you feel better.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Hi, Dr. Alabato.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So we're going to give you an opportunity to make a presentation, and then after the presentation, we have a couple of questions for you.
Okay, good. My name is Roy Alvato. I am an academic and practitioner. I used to live in Mulga Hill, and we moved here 6 years ago in Voorhees, and I love it. And so I kind of wrote something. I am a adjunct professor for Rowan College of South Jersey, located in Vineland, New Jersey. And I'm also, I do consulting with a prominent hospital here in South Jersey. I'm a single dad, and my son Bronson he went to Osage for three grades. And I know Mr. Cramner, he's just an excellent leader. Because I thought Osage was a great school. He attends E.T. Hamilton now with Mr. Moskowitz, and I think that's an excellent school as well. I received an undergrad degree at Westchester University, and then I have a healthcare and health administration and health education at St. Joe's I have years of behavioral health experience. I worked for a managed care organization called Community Behavioral Health. And we managed really Philadelphia's behavioral health system. And so I was a children's specialist there. I am versed in, drug and alcohol and children's services, school-based services, adult services, psychiatric services. I also have a doctorate in educational degree, and I thought this was an opportunity for me because there was a vacancy that I can help Voorhees. I think that your school district is marvelous. It's top-notch. Leadership's excellent. You have a diverse community. I think the education's great. But there's still, room for improvement. And I think I can help with that. Raising a child can be challenging, and I know as a single dad, and I know that it's hard. Love is the basic element of life, and that I think that being a stakeholder here in the community, I have stake to enhance equity and grace and education in the community. And so I'm here for a candidacy.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
You have a couple of questions.
Sure.
We'll start with Randy.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
My question is, what do you think is the most important responsibility of a board member?
So with the board, I think is vision and guidance for the next coming years. Not only it's through fiscal, right, responsibility, but also to where's it going in the next 5-10 years? Sometimes I feel like I've been in education for a while, and education has been status quo, right? But I always feel that someone can revitalize something that, I don't know, teachers might need that we don't know. Congruency of each schools. I hear that. We have so many elementary schools, but each one has its own culture, and it's also, managed differently, or even with policy. So I'm here to kind of help enhance the school district. Priorities are fiscal responsibility, implementing, correct curriculum, right? And then also to, being safe. That's because of COVID. And so those are probably 3 top elements that we can kind of improvise. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you explain what unique characteristics you would bring to the board?
Yes. So if, I teach college, and one thing that I've had from previous bosses and previous students, they would say I'm very authentic. I am probably different. I teach classes differently. I actually play music before class. Mood per research creates mood. So if you have good music, then you can have, a good meeting, right? So I'm very authentic. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro 3 years ago to heal, to have spiritual enhancement. So with me, I do a lot of different things. With my life, I travel around the world with my son. We do karate at Mackenzie's Taekwondo, so we're local. And I love this town, so I want to invest my responsibility as a civic leader to help, the school district in any way, whatever you guys need.
Thank you so much. Can
Sure.
you please describe your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including race and gender identity?
So I am a Libra, and I am core to equity, right? Being treated fairly. I know that people growing up in some way have not been treated fairly, whether it be gender, whether it be sexual orientation. So I have a, at St. Joe's in educational leadership, they taught you about, about equity and about discrimination and different theories about that. But I want to treat people equally. It's just plain and simple. And so, but there's elements of politics and people and bullying that are not being treated fairly. So I think every person here growing up has not been treated fairly in some way. There's a visceral feeling when we have that. And so that's to my core. So yes. I mean, we can talk children in the Philadelphia school district. So community behavioral health dealt with a lot of issues with children that need services. And so there's so many voluminous cases where kids didn't actually need the behavioral services. They needed help with the academic work. They needed, an IEP to address elements of, issues within that specific child. So, I mean, there's just so many stories behind equity. And so I was a children's specialist, and, there's a story. So in the months of April and May, there were a lot of kids coming into the CRC. It's the Crisis Response Center. There were kids that were getting evaluated there were kids throughout the whole year, but we did evidence-based practice, and we saw that there were so many kids coming in the ER getting evaluated those specific months. And then there would be a backlash of kids waiting for beds. So they would have to stay at the CRC. And so we worked with the school district of Philadelphia, and we said, what's really going on here? And we found out through data and partnership that it was really, those months were like testing. And we kind of helped fix that. And so that's just one example of how, our team at CBH help partnership with the Philadelphia School District to decrease the amount of kids in the CRC. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
Yes. So there's a couple things. I want to be a servant leader and a transformational leader. I always say adults and kids, they learn the best by mimicking. It's the easiest thing, right? And so I like to be a servant leader to do things so that people can copy and mimic the things that are good that I'm supposed to do with the school district. Transformational leadership is one that changes thoughts. And this is important because I know, with the board and with the community, there's always a conflict, right? There's some sort of conflict. And I always say conflict is actually good, as long as you can understand the perception. Conflict in its basic element is two different belief systems. One believes this and one believes that. And we have to find common ground, right? And so dealing with that constantly, just throughout your, just not, professionally, but also personally, conflict is one element that I like, that I have to try to resolve in some way. So servant leadership, transformational leadership.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
We ask that you join the audience. And
Okay.
we're gonna
Sure.
see the other candidates. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, Daniel.
She doesn't have trust.
Tentative.
Great deal.
Before I begin, do I need to sign in tonight?
No, not for this.
Okay.
So we're just going to ask you to have your presentation, and then there will be a couple of questions from the board.
Got it. Same as last time. Good. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the board and Voorhees residents and parents for the opportunity to address all of you regarding my consideration for the appointment to the Voorhees Board of Ed as a replacement for VP Rachel Van Aken. For those of you who may not be aware, I was the November candidate who came within 16 votes of being elected to the seat previously held by Ms. Aken, who received 3,493 votes at 18.63% to my 3,477 votes at 18.54%, and Ms. Kedover's 560 votes. In light of the recent election, it seems to be the most fair and democratic way to fill this position would be with the very person who the community voted to best represent the voice and the will of the Voorhees community. Further, by doing so, the board will demonstrate they will not allow personal politics to interfere with supporting the candidate the Voorhees voters felt best advocated for the parents, children, and teachers of our school district. My husband and I have been residents of Voorhees for approximately 21 years. My 12-year-old, as many of you know, is a 7th grader at BMS, and my 10-year-old is a 5th grader at Crescent. Like many other families, my husband and I moved to this township as we valued the high-quality public education, as well as the diversity and inclusiveness of this community. Coming from a multiracial cultural background, it was important to us that our children be exposed to a diverse and rich community, which would help them to be well-rounded adults. As I previously noted, I am a licensed social worker. I obtained my master's from Drexel University in Philadelphia, and my master's at Camden, my master's in Camden, Rutgers in Camden, and my bachelor's in psychology from Drexel. I belong to the National Association of Social Workers and have over 17 years clinical experience providing psychotherapeutic, case management, and discharge planning services in mental health and substance abuse. I work with children, adolescents, and adults of diverse backgrounds in all levels of care, as well as special needs inmates at a medium men's correction facility. I have dealt with everything from suicide attempts, self-harm behavior, eating disorders, identity disorders, domestic violence, sexual abuse, neglect, substance abuse, behavioral problems, and medication refusal. Additionally, I worked as a case manager for a behavioral health insurer, completing pre-certs for mental health and substance abuse treatment, utilizing medical necessity criteria and best practice guidelines, demonstrating my knowledge and commitment to evidence-based treatment. As you know, I also participated in July 2020 in the Road Back to School Plan Committee with our previous superintendent, Dr. Gentile, in order to get our children back to in-person learning in the least restrictive and safest environment possible. As a mental health clinician, I have the training and experience of being able to set aside my personal and political beliefs in order to make decisions in the best interest of all in the community. I am pursuing a position on the board to be a voice for the parents, children, teachers of this community. I believe the primary role of education is to ensure our children are provided with an honest vision of what it means to be engaged citizen of this diverse country. In order to achieve that, our educators must promote the values and teach the skills of thinking, leadership, and teamwork so they can become independent thinkers, capable of problem solving on their own, and promote liberty of thought, speech, and religion. The focus of education should not be on promoting any one particular worldview or what is culturally or politically relevant at the time, but on the basic skills of math, science, English, and history, the good and the bad, in order for them to be successful, independent adults striving for a better future than our own. When parents send their children to school, they do so with the belief their rights as parents do not end when their children walk through the door, that their morals, values, and beliefs that they instilled in their children are being valued and respected. It's been a difficult time for parents, children, and teachers throughout the COVID pandemic, having to navigate uncharted territory.
Despite teachers' best efforts, I witnessed the negative impact school closures have had on our children, especially those identified as special needs, as I previously mentioned. Some children have fallen behind academically, as many parents are unable to work from home or take time off to assist their children in navigating the challenges of virtual learning. They were isolated from friends at a time when social interaction is important in their social and cognitive development, resulting in mental health issues. We have witnessed government mandates put into effect that were not based on science, rather on politics. These mandates encroached upon parental and student rights, implementing questionable policies over the very valid objections of many parents. Policies were not acted on based on science, rather based on fear. As such, it's my intention to be an advocate for parental rights and choice, academic excellence, fiscal responsibility, transparency, and accountability, especially as it pertains to personnel issues and curriculum changes in order to maintain learning consistency, prevent bureaucratic overreach, prevent any future school closures or interruptions, personnel recruitment and retention, flexibility for local school districts, early childhood learning and education, after-school programs, and expanded learning, especially for special needs and at-risk children. Thank you.
Mandy?
Thanks. It's the most important responsibility of a board member.
Working as a team with the rest of the board in developing curriculum changes that benefit the rest of the community, regardless of worldview.
Thank you.
Can you explain what unique characteristics you would bring to the board?
As I mentioned, I am a qualified licensed mental health professional. I am from a diverse cultural and racial background. I have family and friends who have worked with me in the community to help our children get back to school and to also to help them navigate the challenges. I worked with all the number of children in my neighborhood when they were struggling the most during remote learning. And I think I can bring that experience to the board, especially in light of the pandemic, which has been a one-time incident that hopefully will not occur again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you please describe your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including race and gender identity?
Yes, as I mentioned before, I believe in diversity, equality, and inclusion. Equality meaning that we help each other to overcome challenges, that we elevate one another, not to keep everyone at the same level. In terms of diversity and inclusion, of course, I am a supporter of the LGBT community, and I am a member of the LGBT community. So it's important to me to make sure that everyone be included in the education experience and that no one is left behind.
Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
And leadership and institutional culture. It's a good question. I mean, you know, it's important, again, as I mentioned before, teamwork, being able to work together to bring about change for everyone that everyone is happy with is what is important to me, to encourage participation amongst everyone, especially in the community, which is very important to me. As I mentioned before. So again, being able to engage everyone in the community will be important to me so that everyone on the board will be transparent and taking all the community's views into consideration.
Thank you very much for your time, and you can join the audience.
Okay, thank you.
Jesus.
Look at those. In that video. Are we filling out names here? No.
No, you just, please provide your presentation, and then at the end of your presentation, there will be a few board questions.
Okay. Great. I'm Julie Ketover. I've lived in Voorhees for over 17 years. I have 2 daughters, an Eastern junior and a VMS 6th grader. I'm a leadership coach with my own business, and I've spent nearly 2 decades in the legal industry as a litigator and business professional before that. I'm a product of a K-12 public education, daughter of a New York City public school teacher who taught for 24 years and then subbed for 18 years after that. My relevant skills for this role include advocacy, communication, collaboration, influencing, and building relationships. I'm applying to fill this vacancy because I believe public education is facing a critical moment and I want to serve. I want to be part of the effort to improve the system and to have it be what it was meant to be. An inclusive learning environment in which all kids can develop not only fundamental skills, but also critical and independent thinking capabilities to position them for successful and fulfilling lives. I believe my experience would support the board to strengthen its reputation and continue to do excellent work in what is a very challenging environment. I have 3 key themes to highlight through some storytelling that will give you some insight into my values, what I stand for, and how I'd contribute to the board. The first is assuming positive intent. I assume all stakeholders in this system want what is best for the kids, and this helps me to choose what to do and how to do it. Last year, for example, in 5th grade, my daughter's class watched a movie about the Holocaust in school, and there was no discussion or exploration of the topic after that movie. My daughter came home upset, and because she was upset, so was I. I think processing of that kind of an experience is important. So I reached out to the teacher to understand how come, and she assured me that it was a matter of timing and that discussion had been planned. So my concerns were allayed. I never once assumed or alleged deliberate mishandling. Related to positive intent, I believe that simple acts of kindness build relationship, trust, and goodwill. So I like to ask my kids' teachers what supplies they need for their classrooms and to send them in with something in the beginning of the year. I think we should use our collective power and resources to be helpful. The second theme, have the hard conversations, but do them in partnership. One of the most irritating things I've heard about myself is that because I believe parents are not the only stakeholders in public education, somehow this means I'm not an advocate for kids. That's really absurd. I'm a fierce advocate. Both of my kids have 504 plans, and on many occasions I've had to advocate for their interests and their needs. My younger one has anaphylactic allergies, and school treatment of nut allergies at the time when she started school was patently dangerous. I, along with other parents, went to BOE meetings. We sat down with administrators. We were blunt and we were strong. We brought research and statistics. We asked for reasonable changes, like having the EpiPens not only in a locked nurse's office during lunch, but in the main office, and to have nut-free tables. We got these changes and they were major improvements. And the conversations were hard, but we worked together. We knew that the schools wanted our kids to be safe too. I know there's a lot of discourse right now about what our kids are learning in school. My invitation is this. If you're worried about learning content, instead of weaponizing Oprah or defaming or attacking public servants and volunteers, talk to your child's teacher, express your concerns, ask questions. As my favorite coach, Ted Lasso, advises, be curious, not judgmental. And finally, accept and embrace evolution. My parents learned by recitation and memorization. My learning was experiential, so I had to defend the passage of the 19th Amendment in American history, and then my teacher said, great, now take the other side and tell me why it's a terrible idea. And of course, there are emerging areas of study. STEM, robotics, data analysis, AI, coding, and these areas need to be built into the curriculum in addition to core subjects so that our children have opportunities to compete in a global economy. Similarly, as we reckon with our past, the way we teach about historical events and whether we teach about them changes. I learned about Trail of Tears and Japanese internment, but I did not learn about Tulsa, and I hope my kids will. As our social consciousness grows, so too should our language about the human experience and inclusion of all experiences in the education system. And this includes gender and sexual orientation. Just because topics are hard does not mean they shouldn't be taught. The legacy of the Holocaust, for example, is crucial to my family's Jewish identity. And anyone who studies the Holocaust understands that education is our greatest tool to combat prejudice, bigotry, and hate. This applies in the context of race relations too. There's also a greater need for social and emotional learning to help our kids build resilience and develop emotional intelligence skills in an increasingly complex world so that they can cope with life's twists and turns. Evolution in terms of what is taught and how we teach is a key component of a thriving public education system. I hope these 3 thematic principles have given you more insight into my candidacy beyond my qualifications. Thank you. I made it in under 5 minutes.
What do you think is the most important responsibility of a board member?
So I think the Board of Education needs to have the best interests of the kids in mind at all times. And primarily, the Board of Education sets policy and goals for the district. I do think one of the biggest responsibilities to the Board of Education is choosing a superintendent. And I think because there are so many different stakeholders in a complex public education system, in many ways, the Board of Education acts as sort of the central focal point to translate the needs and interests of each of the stakeholders to each other.
Can you explain what unique characteristics you would bring to the board?
Unique characteristics. Well, I think I've addressed some of them already, but I do think I have strong leadership skills. I believe in collaboration. I'm a really powerful, active listener. I'm a clear communicator, and I build relationships. And I think in this system, it's really important to build relationships because while we don't have competing interests, there are a lot of people who have stakes. And so I think I bring to the table the ability to build consensus.
Thank you.
Could you describe your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including race and gender identity?
So increasingly, I think this is fundamental in public education. I think the DEI lens needs to be applied in all ways. And that relates to race, gender, sexual orientation, special needs, religion, all of it. We're learning more and more that the human experience is not limited. We have lots of different people with different backgrounds who need to be heard and seen and have the ability to be recognized. So I think it's fundamental in public education.
Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
Sure. My philosophy is that we need to work together, that we may not always agree. There may be heated discussions, but we all need to come to the table with an open mind, with the ability to communicate civilly, to be a team, to collaborate. And again, to remember that we're all here for the same reason, which is the interests of the kids and making sure they're all learning and advancing in their lives and getting what they need to succeed.
Thank you very much. We're going to ask you to rejoin the group. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody again. Was everybody good?
Good.
All right, good.
We're
Any
gonna give you-
instructions?
Yes, we're just going to give you an opportunity to do your presentation, and then there's just a couple of board questions.
All right, awesome. All right, well, good evening. My name is Eric Simpkin. I would like to thank all parents, residents, board members, administration, staff, and guests for the opportunity to address you regarding being considered for appointment to the Board of Education. I am a proud resident and member of the Voorhees community for 3 years. I have no intention on moving in the foreseeable future. I first attended a Voorhees board meeting in August of 2021. I, like many parents, was watching my high school age children suffer during the pandemic and had concerns as to whether their district would be returning to in-person learning. for 2021 or 22 school year. I was considering moving my children to Voorhees. I wanted to check out what was happening in the K-8 district as sort of a climate check for what I may expect at Eastern Regional High School. After seeing how the board was functioning, I simply couldn't turn away. And I realized that there was a lack of transparency between the public school system and the public community it serves here in Voorhees. The superintendent search was underway, and the search firm HYA was hired to fulfill the role as an outsourced recruiting firm. Mr. Redfern had already answered the call and took over the helm as an interim superintendent, and I applaud Mr. Redfern for his stepping up and filling such a critical role. I've heard nothing but compliments and gratitude from the community and staff. I do want to paraphrase from the Voorhees Sun article published on October 14th, 2021, after the candidate meet and greet. Ms. Watson and Ms. Van Aken reviewed their accomplishments, implementing full-day kindergarten, beginning construction for a new kindergarten facility at Crescent, the board's handling of the pandemic, and addressing the dismissal of the previous superintendent in May. Ms. Watson, alluding to the transparency being given with the superintendent search, stated, "We are going to have a ton of community involvement. There will be some task force, some community groups that will be focus groups to help educate our decision." In response to the article, in my opinion, the Crescent project is a flop and potentially a waste of $4 million. The facts were hidden from the public. And furthermore, the superintendent search and hiring process has lacked transparency after the beginning stage. And now that we're appointing a new superintendent after a closed session closed to the public decision process. It seems there's been a quasi-executive branch formed on this board based on my observations and research, and I have witnessed a total lack of transparency in response to multiple inquiries and proposals myself and other members of the community have made to this board. I propose establishing public advisory committees for curriculum development, policy review and enforcement, and vendor vetting. I have received no response from the board. I stand against this form of governing body for our public school district as a monopoly seated in the spirit of autocracy. The public has and is being shut out of many critical decisions, leaving these decisions to be made by few behind closed doors that will affect many. I'm seeking appointment to offer a fact-based viewpoint, opinion, and voice to all members of our community. I bring 30 years of business experience across a diverse range of industries. I consider the public school system a business. I believe the community is the primary stakeholder. The district must provide the absolute best education possible, free of cost and free of force-fed, socially constructed ideals that in many cases conflict with the family values that have been passed down by countless generations of families in our community. I come from a family with deep roots in public education and spiritual leadership. My mother was a fifth grade teacher, elementary school principal, and director of special services of a local school district, while my father was a high school principal. I know how a school district should operate. I've raised two incredible children. I've helped raise two incredible children. I care about my community and every member within it. I can remain impartial. I know the laws, rules, policies, and bylaws that are to be adhered to. I'm committed to providing the absolute best education to each and every child who attends Voorhees Township Public Schools. In accordance with the Code of Ethics for school board members, I would confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and I'll help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them, the public community. And whether or not, as board members, you choose to appoint me on this board this evening or not, I will run for the board in November. And if we did use any of the most recent public vote as a gauge when considering this appointment, clearly Ms. Adele and Ms. Wellings would be appointed, and for certain, Ms. Ketover would not be appointed, nor myself, since this vote is not being made by the public. Thank you for your consideration.
What do you think is the most important responsibility of a board member?
The most important responsibility is the hiring of a superintendent.
Thank you.
What unique characteristics would you bring to the board?
I would be bringing an alternate source of information, data, news sources, in order to help make decisions on policies, curriculum that make sense. Even when those that don't make sense are being made, or whether they are, I feel that I can bridge that gap and communicate and bring people together to realize that there are opposing views, and those opposing views can be bridged to work together for the better of everybody.
Thank you.
Can you describe your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including race and gender identity?
Sure. I feel like diversity is sort of a self-descriptive word. I realize the diversity of our and most communities, and I feel that everyone, of course, has equal opportunities to enjoy the same things as every member of a community or group. Inclusion, I believe in. However, I don't like when groups are formed that exclude other individuals or groups. So I do like to see inclusivity, assuming that everyone is able to participate in those types of groups. And equity, I feel that everyone has an equal opportunity, and equality is about opportunity. I do feel that equity has been portrayed as about outcome. I understand equity as far as gender and race. I just don't like to see people that have capabilities be passed over for any reason that they can't control.
Thank you. Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
Okay. Institutional culture really should be framed around driving the success of whatever that institution's doing. Leadership should be, a person or group of people that can help frame policies, make decisions that will positively impact the most amount of people, if not all the people within the organization, and always be striving to do your best.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and you can now rejoin the audience.
Thank you.
The original.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
So we're going to ask that you provide us with your presentation, and then there will be a couple of board members that have questions for you.
Sure. It's nice to be able to talk up here without a mask. Thank you. My name is Deborah Wellings, and first I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak regarding my qualifications for a seat on the board and considering me. As you know, I ran for a seat on the board in the last election in November and was garnered 3,364 votes, which was 129 votes away from a seat. My goal was to try to be a voice at the table and part of the eyes and ears for what's best for the children of Voorhees. I've been a resident of Voorhees for 15 years, and I have a special needs son that attends VMS and is about to graduate and enter Eastern. And while I'm grateful for that, I do feel that he, along with most other kids, are attempting to catch up with the learning loss they endured the last 2 years. My son has had fabulous teachers who need to be honored, as well as all the other teachers for handling all the remote learning and obstacles during a very challenging 2 years. Children have suffered learning loss, mental issues, anxiety, and a multitude of other issues, and there was an increase in the need for extra therapy services from the remote learning as well as from the masks that they had to wear. Since my son is and has been in a self-contained classroom during his school years, I am able to assist other parents with IEPs and 504 plans to navigate their children's goals and help them with programs that are geared towards special needs children. There is a need to ensure academic programs aren't being cast aside to satisfy political ideologies and also to advocate for a parental choice and parents' rights. Parents should be able to opt out of any curriculum they don't want their kids exposed to, which would only confuse them. There are educational programs that have been implemented into the curriculum, either in social and emotional learning or into other subjects that will cause confusion and harm kids. There's a huge need for the materials to be evaluated and examined to ensure they are materials that won't cause harm and are age appropriate, since some schools may not even be aware that some material has been placed into the curriculum. I think that's a big issue. My goal would always be to put the children first by ensuring every student has access to a safe, appropriate, and comfortable public education without situations that impede learning and socialization. If elected to the board, I will hold the board academically accountable and will vote with integrity. We want equal fairness for all kids as well as kindness, especially in this diverse township, which I'm glad to be a part of. Diversity and inclusion is important, and there should be opportunities for the other members of the board to have other diverse opinions and views. I believe all kids are unique and all are created equal, regardless of where they came from or what they look like, and should always be treated equally. Let's get back to the academics and get our kids prepared to prosper so they are equipped with the knowledge and abilities they need to obtain high SAT scores for college acceptance in a positive environment so they are able to effectively prosper and become critical thinkers and obtain other important skills to assist them to succeed in the competitive job market in their future. I bring 31 years of legal experience with excellent analytical skills and ability to think pragmatically and consider different views on situations. I'm able to offer a different and new perspective to the other members of the board with the best interests of the kids at heart, with an empathetic emphasis towards special needs kids. The children are our future. Let's equip them with the education and skills they need to thrive and allow them to be the best they can. Thank you for listening, and I hope I am provided with the opportunities to be of service for the children in the township.
Thank you. What do you think is the most important responsibility of a board member?
I think basically an ability to think critically and weigh all aspects of any kind of information that you're presented with. I think you have the ability to consider all viewpoints and not vote based on bias, and basically vote accordingly with integrity.
Can you please explain what unique characteristics you would bring to the board?
Basically, I'm a parent of a special needs child, and I think that with that comes with different challenges as far as developing individual goals and learning plans. And I think that with my experience with IEPs and 504s, I would be able to bring a different perspective as far as how to navigate that, because it can be very overwhelming for parents. So that's where I would bring that expertise.
Can you describe your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including race and gender identity?
Sure. I believe that all kids are created equal, and all kids should be created or treated equally. They're all unique, and I think that inserting any other kind of privileges or any kind of weighing them in any way based on anything other than, or based on race or any kind of where they come from is wrong. I think we're a diverse population, a diverse school, and I think that the board needs more diverse views on the board. As far as equity, there's different connotations surrounding that. Equality, I am all about. Everybody should be basically treated as equal and included. All kids should be included. I think that kids are born the way they are. If they want to be a different way, or however, what are other issues that present itself, I think they should always be able to be made to feel equally, what's the word I'm looking for? Able to be who they are, exactly, and shouldn't be regarded as different or penalized or anything. They should be who they want to be, basically.
Thank you.
Can you describe your philosophy on leadership and institutional culture?
Leadership brings with it certain qualities that where you're able to weigh things professionally without any kind of bias. As far as institutional culture, I would think that would basically mean being able to embrace all different cultures and making decisions forming around all of them as a whole, basically.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
rejoin
Appreciate
the
it.
audience.
Thank you.
So thank you again to all of the candidates. It's wonderful to see so much interest in public service and in serving our community. I now want to open it up for board comment and discussion. The floor is open.
I could start.
Yep, go,
Unless someone else
please.
wants-
No.
You go. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank all of the nominees for coming out. There are no bad choices, and some of us know each other and our neighbors or friends. So anything that we decide tonight is not personal, and we do appreciate you coming out. Where are you going to go with the discussion, Monica? Are we just doing it?
It's whatever comments anybody wants to make about their, why they want to vote for a specific person, their thoughts about the candidates, whatever you feel
Okay.
you would like to
So
discuss.
again, not personal. I would like to vote for Rocky Desai. We did get an overwhelming amount of emails supporting her from the community. A lot of good things were said about her, a lot of good, strong recommendations. We do have a large Indian population in our community, and they would like to be represented. They would like to have a face on this board that represents them. We are a very diverse community. So I do like what Rocky had to say. I do appreciate that she was describing herself more so, and what she would bring versus maybe any other type of agendas, that have to do with other issues. So that's all I really have to say.
I also would like to nominate her. I also think that she is a very good choice for this board. She brings diversity, and she does not use social media to her advantage and place her opinions on the community, like some of the other people that have came out to be a board member. I think that she would be a very good addition because of also her education background from, K-8 as well as being a professor, like at the university level. So.
I would like to thank everybody who came out tonight. I think everybody brings really unique skills and qualities to the table. I thought one of the things that we could use, and one of the things that is a really unique quality, is what Dr. Acevedo was talking about, his experience with community and behavioral health, specifically with working with children and partnering with school districts to enhance learning and make sure that children are able to get through those really stressful times. I thought was a tremendously unique attribute that we could use on the Board of Education.
I just want to ask all of the board members to just speak up a little bit, because I think audience members and the people online are having trouble hearing.
I found it a really interesting opportunity for us to have 2 vacancies this year. We had 2 back-to-back meetings where several candidates were able to explain their desire to be on the board, and I felt like I learned a lot about those candidates, especially between the first and second interviews. So thank you to those of you who interviewed tonight, and especially to those of you who've now interviewed twice for this position. I found Ms. Kedover to provide strong answers in all of the questions that we asked, to have thoughtful answers. I also found, I thought I was going to remember his name, Dr. Alabato, to have some strong initial answers to some of the earlier questions. And I appreciated both of their answers, their presentation, and their answers to the questions.
Okay,
I thought everybody did a fabulous job just expressing their points of view and perspectives. I thought that what I was able to kind of discern is that everybody has a passion and purpose to want to be on the board. And that's the baseline. So that I'm very appreciative of. But I will say that even though I loved everybody's answers, I love the consistency of those who had previously interviewed last time. But I will say that Ms. Catover's answers, they just, to me, seemed like a welcome fit. Just one of the things that I took from her is that she's an active listener and works in collaboration. And that is something that is kind of like my strong suit. So I can acknowledge that and can, vote for that.
I think it's great that we have so many people in our community that want to step up and fill an empty seat, as I'm new to the board. But I have to throw my support for Rocky Desai. I feel like our position should be listening to the public, and she's the only candidate that we got multiple emails from the community asking, for her to be voted on. So as I was personally voted by our community, I think it's really important that we listen to what our community, and as an elected official, we should be listening to the public and making our decisions on that. So and I also think it's so important to have that Indian representation on our board, as over 20% of our community is Indian. And I think, we're so lucky to be part of this diverse community. And I think it's important to bring that perspective, just like I can bring a perspective on a special needs, child, something similar, which I think is important. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for coming out. It's not easy what you had to do tonight and at the last meeting, stand in front of the public and educate us about your passion to be a board member. I do appreciate it. It's a tough decision. I don't think we can make a bad decision tonight. Personally, I feel that Ms. Catover, for me, did the best job of expressing what it means to be a board member and contribute from that perspective. So thank you.
I too agree that everybody had excellent excellent perspectives, diverse perspectives. I think that Ms. Desai brings some welcome diversity, additional diversity to the board. I think that Ms. Cutover provided exemplary responses. I think that Mr. Simpkin and Ms. Edel and Ms. Swellings also bring welcome different perspectives as well, that are much appreciated, and will continue to push this board to be better and do better. And I'm just very appreciative of everyone's time and energy. With that, does anybody else have any other comments on the board?
I just wanted to say, I did agree with Scott about Dr. saying that correctly. I thought he was,
Kelly, speak up.
oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I thought he gave a great presentation, answered the questions well, and had a lot of experience to offer the group as well.
Yes, agreed. I'm sorry, I did not mean to leave Dr. Alibato off. Yeah, wonderful presentation as well. Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, I will open up the nominations.
I'll nominate Ms. Cutover.
I'll nominate Mrs. I.
I'll nominate Dr. Alibato. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Let me just get the names. So Dr. Levy did the first one, and who did the second one?
Me.
Okay,
Dan.
sorry. Okay. All right, so we have to do it in the order of the nominations. First, we would need to take a motion and a second motion to close the nominations.
A motion to close the nominations. I think we need a first.
I'll motion.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so at this point it's closed. Do I take a vote to close it or vote on that?
I'll take a vote to close.
Okay, so we're gonna open the voting to close the nominations. Okay, that's all right.
We all got logged out.
Oh, okay, everyone has voted yes to close the nominations. And now we'll move on to the vote. So, oh, sorry, wait a second. Oh. Okay, so now we'll vote on the first motion, on the first nomination. So let me do I take new motions for that?
No, you don't need a new motion. You already have them.
Okay, this is where it gets confusing. All right, so. Sorry. All right, so this motion will be for Mrs. Cadover.
Correct. Motion for Mrs. Cadover to fill the board vacancy spot.
Wait, can I just ask a question? Can I ask a question before we
Yeah.
vote? Monica, don't you have a personal relationship with Julie, like a business relationship? So would that void your voting for her or?
I do not, for the record, I do not have, so of course I know Julie, I know everybody in this room. Half of them are teachers of my children, half of them are community members that I know. Julie, I met in 2018, not that it's any of your business, but I met Julie in 2018 and Julie is a professional coach. And so she was my coach in 2019 for 6 months. That is the extent of the personal relationship or professional relationship that I've had, that I paid her for her services. I don't care if you beg to differ. That's the relationship that I have.
So does that not?
That
go
does
against-
not present
It's a
conflict.
violation to nominate your friends for the board. According to the code of ethics.
I just have concern that you paid her as an employee or.
But the relationship is over, so there's no conflict of interest.
No, nominating a friend is
She
nominating a friend.
Does she currently coach you right now?
No, she
You already
does-
answered that, right?
She coached me in 2019. That is it.
The point was nominating a friend is still a conflict of interest, according to the code of ethics.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You should-
Can we continue?
Yeah, continue.
All right.
If there's any more disruptions, please.
All right, I'm opening the voting.
Just to be clear, that was a vote. when this cut over, right?
That was a vote for Mrs. Cadover, yes, Ms. Cadover. We're voting on Mrs. Cadover for a seat on the board.
How could you bully me online? How could she be around kids? She shouldn't even be considered. She bullied me online.
If you continue to talk, we're gonna have to ask you to leave.
Okay, fine. You can do so, but she. did
Please,
bully me.
please remain quiet. Please remain quiet. It's not appropriate.
No, it's gotta be a majority with the remaining board members. So there's 8 board members, it's gotta be a 5.
So there has to be a 5 vote, and currently we have 4 yeses, 3 nos, 1 abstention. So I'll read off the names, okay? Mr. Bryce is a yes, Ms. Cosenza is a no, Dr. Falk is an abstain, Mrs. Galliano is a no, Dr. Levy is a yes, Mr. Schmuse is a yes, Mrs. Stupler is a no, Mrs. Watson is a yes. So there's 4 yeses, 3 nos, 1 abstention. Motion does not carry. So we would move on to the next candidate. Okay. Now, the only problem I have, I'm going to have to do this manually because I only have one thing online here. So let me get my thing. So what I will do is I'll call out the roll and you can tell me yes or no for Ms. Desai. Okay, Mr. Bryce,
No.
Mrs. Cosenza,
Yeah.
Ms. Galliano,
Yes.
Dr. Levy,
No.
Mr. Schmooze,
No.
Mrs. Stupler,
Yes.
Mrs. Van Auken, oh, no, sorry, old list. Dr. Falk.
No.
Mrs. Watson.
No.
Okay, motion does not carry. I have 3 yeses and 5 nos.
Can you vote for 2 people or no?
Well, the first one did not pass, so we moved to the second one. Yes. So I have 3, let's see, 3 yeses and 5 nos. All right, so now we'll move to the third person, Dr. Alabato. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Renominate, try again.
Okay, I'm going to call the roll for Dr. Alabato.
We've done this before.
Mr. Bryce,
No.
Ms. Cosenza, I'm sorry, Ms. Galliano?
Yes.
Oh, so we can vote for 2 people?
No, oh,
Right now?
no, well, okay, let me start
Doesn't
over.
understand.
The other 2 did not pass. So the other, so that they're,
Oh, okay, so
so
yes,
we're
I'll
starting
vote
over.
yes
So
for
yes,
Al-
okay.
Al-
So
yeah.
I'll start over, completely start
I'm
over.
sorry, Helen.
That's okay. Yeah, so each one either passes or fails and we move to the next
Okay,
one.
all right.
So this is brand new, Dr. Alabato. I'm starting over. Okay, Mr. Bryce,
No.
Ms. Cosenza,
Yes.
Ms. Galliano,
Yes.
Dr. Levy,
No.
Mr. Schmooze,
No.
Mrs. Stupler,
Yes.
Dr. Falk,
Yes.
Mrs. Watson.
No.
Motion does not carry. I have 4 yes and 4 no. Please start over again. Is that what you said?
Yes, I mean, the board can choose to do nominations over again. They do have 60 days to fill the vacancy. If it's not filled at the end of 60 days, then the executive county superintendent appoints somebody.
So,
I don't.
so what would you like to do?
Maybe we need to have a third party interview them and do it. That's just my opinion. I'm not changing my vote, so.
Fellow board members, is there any utility in renominating any of the individuals?
We had an abstention in the first vote, and I don't know if maybe there was one in the other vote. So I don't know what that means, but is that worth pursuing? I don't know.
Could we renominate?
That's my question. Yeah. Is okay. Let's renominate.
I nominate Rocky Desai.
I'll nominate head over.
Oh, I guess we have to reopen. I reopen nominations.
Nobody got elected.
Yes, so you said they could come back again, 6 months, you said?
60 days.
60 days?
Yeah.
So let's.
No,
go
I
back to
said the board can renominate now. They can try again. They could try again at the next meeting. They have 60 days to fill the vacancy. If the vacancy is not filled at the end of that period, then the county superintendent is required to appoint somebody.
I believe Robert's rules of order would make it carry another year.
pressure people. That's called pressure.
Not true.
Don't stand your ground, people. Stand your ground.
Does anyone have Robert's rules of office with them?
I am sure that Robert's rules say that the audience cannot talk during this part of the
Right.
meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm a member of the public, not just the audience.
I understand that.
Okay, thank you.
We have a nomination for Ms. Desai, I believe was first.
This process.
Correct? She was first.
She was first.
Yes.
Okay. So voting is open for,
Are we have, do we have any more or just?
yeah, it was Miss Desai and Miss Cadover for the two nominations,
I nominate Dr. Alvarado.
and Dr. Alavato.
Okay, I'll call the roll on Ms. Desai. Mr. Bryce,
No.
Ms. Cosenza?
Yes.
Ms. Galliano,
Yes.
Dr. Levy,
No.
Mr. Schmuse,
No.
Mrs. Stupler,
Yes.
Dr. Falk,
No.
Mrs. Watson.
No.
I have 3 yeses, 5 noes. Does not pass. So now we go to Cadover. All right, this vote will be for Mrs. Cadover. Mr. Bryce,
Yes.
Mrs. Cosenza,
No.
Ms. Galliano,
No.
Dr. Levy,
Yes.
Mr. Schmuse,
Yes.
Mrs. Stupler,
No.
Dr. Falk, Mrs. Watson.
Yes.
I have 4 yeses. And 4 no. Oh, did I? Okay. Yeah. Right. Say 1, 2, 3. Yes, I have 4. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, this vote will be for Dr. Alavato. Mr. Bryce,
No.
Mrs. Cosenza,
Yes.
Ms. Galliano,
Yes.
Dr. Levy,
No.
Mr. Schmuse,
No.
Mrs. Stupler,
Yes.
Dr. Falk,
Yes.
Mrs. Watson.
No.
4 yes, 4 no.
All right, so it carries to the next meeting. And before I get into the minutes, I wanted to first say that I attended the Once Upon an Island with my family on Sunday, and I was truly blown away. The students were extraordinary. The set and costumes really transported us to the Antilles. To the parents who supported the children in this demanding endeavor, thank you. These performances made our district shine bright, and I want to say congratulations to all of you. It was exceptional.
Agreed.
Second, I want to get my notes in order. Stuff is all over the place. I want to address some of the superintendent comments. The first thing I want to say is we should all know by now, living through a pandemic, living through 2 very interesting elections, not to believe everything you read on the internet. There are a lot of rumors swirling around, a lot of false information spread by whomever has their own agendas. And it's very unfortunate because what happens is someone spreads a rumor, then everybody starts running around and believing the rumor, and then everybody starts spreading the rumor. And nobody is paying attention to how that actually impacts people, and impacts the board, impacts our incoming superintendent, impacts the community as a whole. Just to level set, and obviously I'm going to try and give as much information as I possibly can, and that's not a ton of information. When we first started looking at superintendent, we were given by the third party two options. You can hold a public search, you can have a confidential search. We were told at the onset, if we hold a public search, meaning it would be open at all stages, or an iteration of that where it would be closed for a portion of it, but then opened at the last three finalists. We were told in no uncertain terms that we would not get the best candidates. Why? It's pretty basic, because those individuals would have to tell their current districts that they are looking for another job. You can imagine anybody who has looked for a job while they're currently employed, that's an odd situation. Puts you in an uncomfortable place in your current district, puts you in an uncomfortable position of leadership. It creates lots of discomfort for all of the parties involved. We were told that we would not get the best candidates. Quite frankly, we were told we would get unemployed individuals, or we would get people who are no longer under contract or had not been renewed. That is not the candidacy pool that we wanted for this district. That's not what this community deserves, and that's not what we wanted. So we decided to have a confidential search. With a confidential search comes a lack of transparency. Why? Because we can't tell you who is in the search, because it's confidential. I wish we could. I wish we could tell you why we picked X, Y, and Z, why we didn't do certain other things. Why? I wish we could tell you all of that information. It would make our lives much easier. There would be much less rumor. There would be much less assumptions, but we can't, unfortunately. So what did we do? Contrary to popular belief, we did involve the community. There were forums. There were lots of input. There were opportunities for the staff to talk to our consultant company. There were opportunities for us to gather input. And all of that input was gathered, and they created what is called a desired characteristic sheet. We made that desired characteristic sheet our Bible. The board took that into every interview. We took it to the finalists. We went through it every single time we made a decision. Why? Because those were the characteristics that the staff, administration, and the community told our consultants were the most important things. So let me share with you what those things were so that everybody is very clear. And I'd love, if anybody disagrees, please raise it in the comment section, because this is what we were told was gathered. That we needed to seek an engaged leader who is experienced, innovative, transparent, and who possesses the following characteristics. Has a track record of authentic and compassionate leadership. Highly focused on student and staff well-being. Has the ability to use data to drive thoughtful decisions, district goals, and initiatives. Is confident, decisive, and resilient. A talented facilitator who can motivate and engage all stakeholders. Display fiscal responsibility through appropriate allocation of resources, exhibits integrity and a high level of emotional intelligence. We wanted a relationship builder who develops and maintains professional, collaborative, respectful relationships with stakeholders based on a strong set of core values, places the students at the center of every decision, seeks input prior to making decisions, communicates the rationale behind each decision, and stands firm once a decision is made. Develops and empowers a leadership team, fosters an open and safe environment that prioritizes inclusion and diversity, an exceptional communicator who communicates regularly, clearly, concisely in a way that engages and values all stakeholders, creates a sense of community around a shared vision of excellence, demonstrates courage in the face of challenges and the ability to navigate complex situations with confidence and empathy, invests in the community by being visible, present, approachable, and actively engaged in the district and community events, has an exemplary executive level K-8 or K-12 educational leadership experience, and is immediately eligible for a New Jersey School Administrator certificate. I will tell you that our two final candidates had all of these qualifications. They checked off all of these boxes. More importantly, we had a deadline. The county superintendent tells us how quickly we have to move. They tell us when we have to get things done. And they were very adamant about we could not have an acting superintendent remain in the role. In fact, we were told, what was the first deadline, Frank? 3 months ago, January was the
6 months ago.
yeah, 6 months ago, we had to ask for 3 extensions and we were told we would get no more extensions. That piece of information, I apologize, we did not share with the community. Quite frankly, I didn't think it was that relevant, but having seen some of the comments, I'm letting you know that is highly relevant because we don't have an unlimited amount of time. We don't get to sit and have this exceptional human being who is sitting next to me for forever. We had to actually go through the process and choose the superintendent. That doesn't mean we rushed. We did not rush by any stretch of the imagination. We spent a ton of time going through and making sure that we made the best decision for this district. We wanted an exceptional candidate. We wanted someone who would bring this district forward and remind everybody why this district was outstanding, is outstanding. We spent hours making sure that we were doing right by this community. Hours, days, our weekends. The process was thorough, robust, and it was transparent. We kept you informed throughout the process where we were. Unfortunately, I think everybody wanted to know, oh, you know, Joe Blow was the finalist. Maxie Waters is the next one. We couldn't tell you that. Or the community wanted to ask the people, the candidates questions. Neither one of those options was going to happen. I'm sorry that that's not how it works, but that's what happens when you have a confidential search. And I explained why that was necessary. The part that is incredibly hurtful is we fell short the last time. We failed, all of us collectively. I take responsibility for that. I do not want to fail you again. Best believe that is not an option. If we fail, the entire district fails. My kids fail because the classrooms fail. We don't have good teachers. If we don't have a good superintendent, we don't have motivated teachers. We don't have good classrooms. And my kids, your kids, all of the kids in the district all fail. So we all have a common interest. We want this to succeed. We do not want to fail. The part that I am the most hurt by, quite honestly, is I have made it very clear. The staff and administration are very important to me. My sister, I say this all the time, is a teacher in Cherry Hill. Teachers have a very special place in my heart. I have tried to make sure that they were at the center of all of our decisions, especially over the last 4 years. I've made sure that your safety and comfort were paramount, and that we could create the most effective learning environments for our children so that you all felt supported, heard, and understood. And at our most crucial time, when the board needs your support and grace, I feel like you've lost faith in us. And that's hurtful. I'm sincerely apologetic to our incoming superintendent because we are broken as a district and as a community. I know that I will continue to put the children first and support our new leader in whatever way I can. And I hope that all of you can put your politics and personal agendas and personal preferences and differences aside and join me in moving onward and upward together. I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but I wanted to try and give you as much information as possible. We'll move to approve the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move that.
Of the February 23rd, okay. Alrighty.
Who was the second number? Was it
Dana.
Online voting is open for the minutes. Motion carries, all yeses with an abstain from Dr. Falk. Closing the voting.
Information items. Fire drills and safety drills are on the attachment, suspensions and the HIB reports also on the attachments. There are no items under communication. Board secretary. Board Secretary report.
Thank you. The first item in my section is the 2020-2021 audit. That was just concluded on March 3rd, and I'm happy to say that we have a clean audit report, which means there's no audit findings or recommendations. I would like to thank my staff in the business office as well as the Buildings and Grounds Department. They do a lot of the purchasing, also the Food Service Department, and everybody else that in the school districts that are involved in purchase orders and so forth. The auditors come, they do compliance checking to make sure we are following procurement laws. They also do other testing. They do substantive testing, and everything does check out okay. They look at our general fund, our special revenue fund, our debt service fund. Also, they look at CER, they look at student activities, and they look at food service. So it's always an accomplishment when we get a clean audit. We're always very proud of that. So again, I'd like to thank my staff for that. And that's what part of the process is. It has to be board approved, and then we send that up to the state. So it was a good audit year, and I commend everyone for their help in that area. And those are finance item 23.9. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the 22-23 tentative budget. Okay, so I'm just going to get my binder a second. Each board member received a budget binder last Friday, but we met with our finance committee on the 9th and went through the various aspects of the budget. You'll see on the agenda, finance items 23.2 through 23.8 are the budget items. The total operating budget is $62,261,369. The special revenue budget is $1,050,850. Debt service $961,150 for a total budget of $64,273,369. We back out a transfer from capital reserve that helps to pay for debt service. So the net budget is $63,641,329. The tax levy piece is $50,409,437. The debt service piece is $10,000 for a total tax levy of $50,419,437. What all that means is each year our budget is funded by state aid and by the tax levy and some other miscellaneous revenue. We had expected our state aid to decrease. Back in 2018, there was S2 was passed, or the Chapter Law 67, where districts that had decreasing enrollment, where the formula was run for them, and they would get a reduction in state aid over a 7-year period. And we were one of those districts. So we would have 2 more years of reduced state aid after this year. So we built our budget considering a $300,000 decrease in state aid. But state aid was delayed in being delivered this year, and usually comes out the last Thursday of February. This year it came out just last Thursday. So kind of late, but that we were happy with the results, because when we got our state aid, it actually went up by 1.344 million. And we went through the calculations to find out why it went up. And the reason why, biggest reason why it went up is full day kindergarten. So state aid is tied to enrollment, and it's a weighted enrollment. So because we had kindergarten half day, that calculation was only 50% of the students that were here. So then now that we have full day kindergarten, they use 100% of the students that are here. Plus we had an increase in kindergarten enrollment of like 84 students. And again, it's like a weighted average, and it's an average over a 5-year period. We also had an increase in special ed students. So all those things combined increased our state aid that we received this year. So our total state aid last year was about 4.9 million. This year it's 6.3 million. The 22-23 budget maintains all existing programs, student services, and stays within the 2% cap on taxes. The tax levy was increased by 2%, which is $988,420. And that's all from the general fund. There's no increase in the debt service fund. This is our last year of paying off debt service. So in the next year, we will not have any. Our total budget is less this year by 1.77 million. And it's mostly made up of the year before we had the construction at Crescent was included in the budget. And that's offset by capital outlay this year, 3 new positions, which is 1 ESL teacher, 1 custodian for Crescent, 1 maintenance mechanic, and other increases in contractual salaries and renewal rates for transportation. Typically, our transportation routes, we ask all our contractors if they'll renew the routes, and they're allowed to renew routes up to the CPI rate, which is 1.91. Most of our routes were renewed, but we have over 30 routes that were not renewed. And mostly that's because of fuel prices and increased pay to bus drivers, because there is a shortage and everything is going up. So we'll have to go out to bid for those 30 plus routes. And so we wanted to anticipate some increase in those expenses, because we don't have that yet. The net valuation tax bill, or the ratables, increased this past year. So when we did the budget for 21-22, there was a decrease in ratables. Now it's turned the other direction. There's now an increase in ratables by 19.4 million, or 0.61%. And that actually helps to spread out the tax increase. So the increase that I'm talking about, which is 2% on our budget, is really an effective rate of 1.37% on the tax rate. So the increase on the average valued house at $260,828 is $54.99 per year, or $5.58 per year on the average house. And again, due to the increase in ratables, that effective rate is really 1.37 versus the 2% that we have in our budget. I just wanted to go over a few more things. Included in our budget, we take money out of capital reserve. And what that is we have a long-range facilities plan of construction projects. And you can fund capital reserve up to 60% of your long-range facilities plan. And then each year, when you budget for construction projects, you take that money out of capital reserve. So the majority of our capital projects this upcoming year are being funded by capital reserve. And I'll just read off a list of them. We have refurbished student and staff restrooms. We're looking into converting this building to municipal water and sewer. We have toilet room conversion of 2 classrooms. We're replacing windows throughout the district, replacing exterior doors throughout the district, replacing interior doors throughout the district, renovating 5 classrooms, renovating a media center, upgrading LED lighting, putting in a new playground, putting in a ramp to athletic fields that will be ADA compliant, repaving a parking lot, and putting a parking lot walkway at one of the schools. As I said before, most of that is funded by capital reserve. 511,000 of that is funded by the ESSER grant. So that's the overall view of our budget. Tonight, the board will vote on submitting it to the county. The county will review it. Now, we have our own internal documents that we share with the board, but there's also the NJDOE software. So all schools have to enter all this information into the New Jersey Department of Ed budget software. It's consistent throughout the state. We enter it, it has checks and balances. You have to describe why everything went. If anything went up more than 4%, you need to tell them why. So there's a lot of checks and balances within the budget, and then it does get submitted and reviewed by the county. We'll do that hopefully by the end of this week. It's not due till the 28th. It was extended. It was due on the 21st. They'll review it. They'll get back to us with any questions. We'll advertise the budget, and then we'll have a public hearing on May 5th of the budget, and that'll be the final meeting on it. All right, so that's all I have in that area. I know I have something else on the agenda. I would like to congratulate Danielle Tucano. She's our Assistant Business Administrator. She's in the audience right now, and she was the one that was walking back and forth with the candidates earlier. She received a professional recognition of Registered School Business Official, and that's issued by the New Jersey Association of School Business Officials. And they have different classifications of who gets that, and her specialty is accounting. She does a really great job. She keeps us all in line, and she's one of the reasons why we have a clean audit. So I would like to thank her for her. Danielle. And then last of all, we announced this from time to time that we have these wellness challenges, and they're funded by our by a grant that's issued by our school's health insurance fund. So it doesn't come from budgeted money, it's a grant. And there's just walking challenges and different things. This is the wellness challenge, and it was a walking challenge called Tavi Step Challenge. And I'll just read off the winners. What happens is people start goals, and then they receive awards. Somebody, I guess it's our shift that pulls the money out of the hat. no, I'm sorry, pulls the names out of the hat and they get gift cards. So we have Ms. Scott, we have Ms. Lorella, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Ms. Fulton, Ms. Lancaster, Ms. Doherty, or Doherty, sorry, Ms. Mitchell, and Ms. Stratton. So congratulations to all the winners, and it's really great to work towards wellness. Thank you, everybody. I know that was kind of long. Superintendent report?
One of these times you have to let me go first.
Oh.
So I would just like to, just again, congratulate Helen and Danielle and the whole business office. We did get our audit back. And there was no inconsistencies, there was no recommendations. So that's not an easy thing to do. So I just want to thank Helen and Danielle and the entire business office once again for that. Again, I attended the drama performance last Friday. Dr. Young, I know Helen went over the weekend, but again, amazing performance by our did an incredible job. I'd also like to recognize Clark. Because we had some tough weather there. So he treated all the parking lots for, the buildup of ice, and he stayed on standby, and we had his men on standby in case we had some flash freezing that night. So everything went well. So I'd like to also thank Clark and his people. And finally, I'd like to shout out to Mrs. Eliana with the middle school. Last Friday, she put together a whole social and emotional day for the students at middle school. She is certified and she takes this to heart. It's a passion of hers. So the students got to pick certain activities that they could do, from the decision-making to self-awareness, to recognizing their own feelings and interests, conflict resolution. So I'd just like to recognize her for putting that whole day together at the middle school. And I know the teachers worked with her today. She sent out a survey to all the teachers to get some feedback on that day so that she can tweak it and make it even better. At this time, we have two quick reports. I'd like to add Sue Donnelly. She's going to give us a brief update on our HIB and our student safety data report.
I'll be quick, I promise. So, good evening. I'm sharing with you the data from the state reports on harassment, intimidation, and bullying for the reporting period of July 1st of 2021 through December 31st of 2021. The district had 8 HIB investigations during this first reporting period. Of those 8 investigations, 3 were founded to meet the criteria defined by the Anti-Bully Bill of Rights Act that were cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. This also means that 5 of those 8 cases were unfounded. In addition, all schools have fulfilled all necessary HIB training for the year. The second part of the report is the SSDS system, which is the New Jersey requires this to be reported on twice a year. So it's our student safety data system. The SSDS collects incidents of violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and harassment, intimidation, and bullying. This report has 33 incidents across the 5 schools, but the 8 HIB investigations were also part of those 33 incidents. So this leaves 25 additional incidents reported. These are discipline incidents, which include things such as simple threat, physical fight, several inappropriate use of cell phone in school, and damage to school property. So the reporting period runs from January 1 through June, and that will be shared again in August. Thank you.
And finally, Dr. Young is going to give us an update on our mid-year assessment.
Good evening, everyone. The board has my presentation in front of them. The teacher and me put little tabs on there for you because I wanted to include some more specific data that you can ponder later on. And if you have any questions about it, reach out to me. And I'll kind of, as I go through the presentation, let you know what is also included in your packet that I'm not presenting tonight, just as a matter of time and interest. Not everybody's probably interested in all the little piggy details. I know I get excited about it, but not everybody here will be. So first, I just wanted to say that we have a lot to really celebrate when we look at our mid-year performance data. The students did extremely well. That's not to say there's not areas that we need to work on. We definitely do have areas to work on, but overall, the results are really, really positive. So I wanted to recognize the teachers for all their hard work because obviously they're the ones that already clapping and I didn't even tell you what it was yet, but here we go. So the first slide just kind of tells you how many students participated in the fall and how many participated in the winter. If you flip to the next, the first one is talking about math. This one is reading. So as I go through the presentation, first you're going to see information about math, and then we'll address reading under the same category. So if we look at our fall to winter data, and I apologize for the audience, I know it's really small, but you can definitely see that there's more green in the winter compared to the fall, and that's really what we're looking at. So the green is telling us that those students are at mid on grade or above grade level, or they're early on grade level. The yellow is 1 grade level below. The lighter red is 2 grade levels below, and then the darker red is 3 grade levels below. So already 26% of our students are mid-grade level or above, and 26% are early on, and then 36% are 1 grade level behind, and then 7% and 6% are below. So we still have a whole half of a year to go. And so you can see that our students are making good progress, especially when we compare it to where they started in the fall. And that's for math. If we flip for reading, you can see that our literacy scores are really, really, really good. So 41% of our kids are mid on grade or above, 24% early on grade level, 24% 1 grade level below, and 6% 2 grade levels below, 3 grade levels below is another 6%. And all of that is a huge improvement from the fall. So really good progress. And then if we go to the next slide, this is just showing you the distribution for math data from fall to winter by grade level. And you can see clearly here that every grade level made growth from fall to winter. So really good, again, data. Reading, same thing, but even greater growth from fall to winter in the area of literacy. It definitely was an area of strength for our students as we look at these results. So really good percentages there by grade level. So then the next data, we don't have this data for, you can go to the next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, it was the right one. Sorry about that. So we don't have this data for math because we haven't been using iReady data for math for a long period of time. We actually started the program just focusing on literacy. And so you can see the pre-pandemic 1920 school year, how that compares to where we are right now. And really the data is very comparable. So that's really good news because, you know, we want to look back and see where we were before this pandemic and how much learning loss has there really been. And you can see that it's really not significant in the area of literacy. So that's excellent news. And then if we flip the data, you can look at the growth. So the board, you have just an explanation of what the iReady looks at as far as growth. But for your purposes up here in the audience, you can see that the orange is the median percent of typical growth. And then the blue is the stretch growth. So they look at 2 different categories. And 62% is the median where the target should be. And so you can see in almost every area we're at above or pretty close to that 62%, with the exception of 4th grade. Those numbers were a little lower. And when we look at our math data, where we're seeing a weakness is in the area of geometry. Which makes a lot of sense because that tends to be the chapters that we teach at the end of the year. So when you look at the impact of the pandemic and you see that when we went out, the kids went out in March. And so a lot of the information that would have been taught from March until June included geometry. They kind of missed out on that. And then the next year coming in, we're going a little bit slower. So then you miss it again at the end of the year. So we have met with principals, and the principals met with their staff, and that we're going to put an emphasis moving forward on geometry to try to catch the kids up, because it's really clear. It shows in the data when we look at it that that is the area that's really impacting those percentages. So we're pretty confident that with some increased math instruction, we're going to add 20 minutes per day to the students' math block. We're going to focus on geometry, and then we're having them work on their iReady instruction. And a lot of the schools and teachers have embraced some competitions and challenges to make this a really fun activity and not stressful for the kids. So I think you're going to see that when I report back on this data in the probably in the summer, that we're going to see a lot of growth in that area as well. So then when we hit the reading mark, though, like, look at those percentages. I mean, they're really, really good. 8th grade off the charts, 153% was the median percent of typical growth achieved. That's like amazing. So really, really good at every grade level. And then we flip again. I love this chart because it really gives you a true picture of where we stand by grade level. So we're in that high performing, high growth quadrant, which is where we want to be, with the exception of 8th and 4th grade in math. 8th grade's right there, touching it, and 4th grade again. And we really think that geometry had an impact on those 4th graders. So we're going to be working on that. But overall, amazing, really, really good. When you flip again, you'll see the quadrant for reading. 8th grade's off the charts, as 7th grade is right there. And then the rest of the grade levels are high performing, high growth. So a lot to be excited about there. Really, really good. Okay, so then the next part is for everybody that wants to really drill down and look at what are the national norms, what are the New Jersey norms. So I left that in there for you, but I'm not reporting on that tonight. If anybody in the audience wants to see that data, I'm happy to provide it. But as we go along, we really want to me, I thought you'd be more interested in how does the district compare to the historical national norms. So you can see that when we look at historical national norms from 1819, the last normal school year, our kids this year are better than what the pre-pandemic national norms are in the area of math. So even though we're seeing some weakness and things we need to work on, we're still performing better than most. And then if we flip it, you can kind of see that as well by grade level. And you can see, again, we're performing better than most. And then flip it again, and you look at the reading scores, and we outperform by a mile. I mean, really, really good. So if you look at the historical national norms, the kids at the 20%, 27% of the kids were at the top, we're 41%. Excellent, excellent. Okay, and then this is really helpful for our middle school staff and administrators, because we really haven't used iReady in the middle school until this school year. So this really gives them perspective to kind of see, all right, where do they fall compared to the norms? And you can see that middle school is outperforming the norms as well. Really good. And as you flip it, you can see again, same thing by grade level for reading. We're outperforming the norms. And then you can look at middle school, and they're performing really, really well. So, and it's pretty consistent across the grade levels, which is nice to see too. Okay, so then we look at our demographic data, and you can see the breakdown in math by race. And so the district overall is 27% at the top. And then you can see the distribution across the different races. And definitely there's a discrepancy. So something that, is important for us to recognize, and just important for us as administrators and teachers, just to make sure that all of our kids have access to supports, so that we can remediate those students that are in need. And then we can see again for math, this is for our Hispanic population. And you can see there's a discrepancy there as well, something that we need to address. If you flip it over for reading, again, there's a discrepancy, not quite as much as in math, but it does just exist. And the same thing when you flip it to the last screen, which I apologize for that last chart. It came out weird on the printout, but definitely, again, we can see a discrepancy there. And so, as I said, we're really excited about our literacy results. We're happy with our math results. We just know that we need to do some work in the area of geometry. And so I know that our teachers are working really hard in that area, and I'm going to see a lot of results. And we'll keep monitoring our iReady instruction to make sure that the kids are on there and working hard at it. But I'm already seeing a huge increase since we had our meetings and since the competition started. So I think it's going to really pay off in the long run. Are there any questions? I know you have. I know this is like your
But
big
how
interest.
much I love data.
I know. That's why I put that extra in there. Anyway.
So thank you. It was a great presentation, and it's great to see how well the students are learning and how well they're growing.
Yeah.
I think the thing that always concerns me when I'm looking at data is it's like norms and benchmarks. And like when we look at benchmarks, that's like averages across large groups.
Mm-hmm.
And is that what we should be aiming for as a district? And I'm just sort of asking that as like a big philosophical question. To everybody in the room, because there are so many wonderful educators and teachers here. So I think that if our aim is to be at average or above average, that's where we're going to get. So I think that my challenge, for the district is, why can't we aim for excellence as we move forward? So forget about where the mean and the norm is, and really try and excel far beyond.
Yeah, and I think that you see that we do in most situations, but there are situations where we have some work to do. And definitely, like I said, that geometry piece is a big indicator there that we're not hitting that in our curriculum. So, but yeah, you're right. And I think that's always been how Voorhees sees things. We want to be way above the norm. Yes.
The other thing is the data, and you mentioned this, but again, I think it's just important for us to call it out, as the data shows that we're failing some of our students, and we're failing them along some demographic lines, and I think that's something that we really have to, just introspect on it and figure out how we can do a better job with that district, because we want to make sure that we're providing as much educational opportunity for all of our students. And even though I think we strive to perform and to provide all of those opportunities, that data doesn't lie. And
100%.
that's why I love it so much. And the data shows us that there are certain student groups that we're failing.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree with you.
Dr. Young, I want to thank you for your presentation. For the purposes of the community, the Academic Excellence Subcommittee met before the meeting this evening. On the committee is Mr. Bryce, myself, and Ms. Watson. And we asked Dr. Young a bunch of questions. Having a child who's now a freshman in high school, I can attest to the fact that some of our curriculum currently doesn't easily translate into that at Eastern. I was pleasantly surprised when I was able to take a look through what it will look like, that it seems like we'll have better idea of what's happening in each classroom and also across the board in each grade level. I'll echo what Dr. Falk said in terms of we see a lot of increase in reading scores, which is excellent. Don't want to see those go down, but we know historically that our students struggle in the area of math. And having a student who went through Signal Hill, 2 students who went through Signal Hill, one who is just never needs any help, independent learner, and another one who needs all of the help and is not an independent learner. Geometry was just something that neither of them had any idea about when it came to standardized testing or learning that in a subsequent grade. So I think the areas that Dr. Young pointed out are important for us to consider as we move forward. I thank the teachers for looking at their curriculum and really thinking about how these changes are important. I know from my prior work as a faculty member, it's never fun to change your lesson plans. Sometimes you have those that you really like to teach, and when they no longer align with the curriculum that you're teaching, you don't get to teach those anymore. And you have to put those aside, and you have to not only do that, and you have to make all new lessons, and you have to have new lesson prep, new tests, new assessments, and everything. So I understand that, and I understand that that's no small undertaking. So I really thank all the teachers for working with Dr. Young on this. This can't be an initiative that comes only from the top down. In order for this to work for all of our students, it has to come from the teachers, because you're the ones who teach it. And you're the ones who know how to make sure our students can learn it in a way that's going to be important for them as they move on. So I want to recognize the effort that's gone on at your level, because I know that effort, and it's much more than just, your standard prep. You have more to do in order to align what you're doing now with this curriculum. So thank you all for your work on this, and thank you, Dr. Young. For your
Thank you.
report. We'll be looking forward to these every year now.
Yay. Anybody else? Okay, thanks.
We have no committee reports. Audience participation. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the podium and write your name and address on the login sheet. If you are attending via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature to be acknowledged. While the board is limited in its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel litigation negotiations and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public relating to items on the agenda for this board meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take.
Hello, Eric Simpkin. I'm a resident of Voorhees Township. Ms. Watson, I do want to discuss the transparency thing real quick. On January 29th at the closed session meeting, I did actually make a public comment requesting the questions that were being asked of the candidates. Nothing to do with the candidates. Shouldn't really be confidential. It's just words on a piece of paper. You asked me to email it to you. I did. I didn't hear a response. On February 9th, I sent a second request to you. I never heard back. And Dr. Levy, I believe you were out of order by speaking to me directly. The president of the board has the ability to speak to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patricia Klein from Sewell, New Jersey. Have a couple questions. Someone made a statement listening to the public. Tara Adele she was 16 votes short of a seat on the board. I think the public has spoken. I don't understand why she was not nominated. Number two, a board discussion. Last time you filled a position, there was no board discussion. I need to understand why wasn't there a board discussion? You missed it. You went right into the vote. You never had a board discussion. So I'd like for someone to answer that question because you didn't follow policy. Number three, the numbers that you recorded, you showed us on this board. You said fall and winter. Is it remote and in person? See, that's deception. To me, that's deceiving the audience, the public, because fall, you were remote, winter, you were in person. I'm asking a question, and the numbers look better in person. Also, you gave a report of damage to, there was some damage to the buildings. I have a question and a question. Who pays for those repairs? That's a good question because it's our money, right? The taxpayers' monies that have to pay for these repairs. Let me see if I had another question for you. Diversity. You said diversity as far as ethnicity. I'm a little concerned about that because are we choosing people based on their ethnicity? Or are we choosing people based on qualifications? That reminds me that our president, Biden, chose a vice president and said because she was Black, not because she was qualified. I want to understand this. Are we making choices based on qualification? Are we making choices based on someone's race? Good question. I think that I made a statement and I still stand behind my statement. We have to be careful as to who we put on the board. We need to look and do a little more digging, deeper, I should say. I talk to my students and I tell them their Facebook page matters. And what they do, the bad behavior matters more. And I've been bullied by one of your candidates on Facebook. And that candidate should never be considered to be a part in working with children. Thank you.
Again, I'm Deborah Wellings. I just had a quick comment regarding the superintendent search, Ms. Watson. As far as your comments that it was it needed to be a confidential process. The hiring of a superintendent is a community-based decision or should be a community-based decision. I understand that HYA had a forum where I attended where we were able to call in and say what we were looking for in a candidate. And that was all the community input that was provided. Ms. Van Aken was quoted in the Voorhees Sun in February, I believe it was, that this will be a community-based decision, and it just was not. Channel 6 News had 3 finalists for a superintendent pick. I think it was Philadelphia. Obviously, it was probably Philadelphia. I'm not positive. They listed the last 3 finalists of their superintendent search on the TV news. So it's not a confidential process. It shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form. You work for us. We need a voice. If we are the ones that are supposed to be making or at least have some input into this decision. You're not giving it to us. And you're stating it's confidential. It is not a confidential situation when this person will be guiding us, our whole district in the school. So I don't understand that. We're upset about that. And, I can sit here and preach about it or talk to you about it, but we never get any feedback. Just like you haven't responded to Eric's email. There's no accountability. This is why I ran for a seat on the board and other people have run for seats on the board. There's no transparency. The public wants that. And I mean, any comments or no? Just, okay. Well, hopefully you respond to us. That's what we're supposed to get. You work for us.
Andrea Boyd Johnson, you may unmute your mic and address the board.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, can I? No, I guess I can't put my camera on. Anyway, my name is Talandria Boyd Johnson, and I live at 145 William Feather Drive in Voorhees, New Jersey. And I am appalled might be too strongly of a word here, but just to see this level of discourse and just the attack on the board and attack on what we're trying to do to really educate our children and make sure we have the best people available. So first I want to address this false dichotomy that that it's race or qualifications. That is not the case. No one ever says that when we're talking about white candidates. And I'm going to be 100% transparent about that. It only comes to mind when we're talking about people of color. And frankly, I'm just sick of hearing that. So I believe everyone presented at the board, they may not have been my cup of tea, but they all had qualifications that were unique and may have made them a great board member. So that's the first thing. And I don't know who we're going to have end up being the superintendent. I did have to miss part of the meeting, but I do have confidence in this board that they are doing the best that they can. Thinking from the perspective of what Mrs. Watson said, that if we had had the transparency that someone alluded to with the school district of Philadelphia, frankly, we are very different school districts, and it's a very different process. I believe that because people would have needed to, or candidates would have needed to give notice and say that they're looking, that yes, we probably wouldn't have received the best candidates possible for this position. Lastly, I just want to say that I hope that moving forward, I can see that this is going to continue to be a contentious period of time with our education and with making sure that all voices are included, that all perspectives are included. And I hope that we can continue to make sure to value diversity, equality, and equity. I don't think equity is a four-letter word. And I think it's something that we have not really concentrated on as a whole in this country. And I am happy to hear that it's something that we are addressing here, particularly in Voorhees Public Schools, because we are a very diverse community. And it's one of the things that has attracted me to be in this community and has caused me to move back to this community. And I support what we're trying to do and continue to do to educate our children so that they can grow up to be informed, compassionate, and critically thinking citizens of this world. Thank you.
Goldstein Silverman, you may unmute to address the board.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dina Goldstein Silverman. I live at 107 Bunning Drive in Voorhees. My children attend Crescent Elementary School. I am concerned about the superintendent candidate for a number of reasons. The person that we were informed may become our next superintendent is a person who has had 3 different jobs in 5 years. And the person's current school district seems to be extremely displeased with their performance, inclusive of faculty, teachers, and staff. And that worries me. I do think that Mr. Redfern has done a tremendous job in this time of crisis. I don't believe that the board has been entirely transparent. I'm a member of a number of community organizations. I'm a fairly involved and hands-on parent and a working professional. And there's a lot of information that I was not privy to that was not easy to find. So I'm very concerned. It seems that the board basically decided who the person is. They have decided to share with us tidbits of information as opposed to the entirety of information. The voice that we have been given has not been a thorough voice. And as a stakeholder in this community, someone who pays taxes in this town, lives in this town, has children attending school in this town, I find that extremely disconcerting. And I understand that this is a great period of contention. I certainly hope that all the stakeholders can work through this contention, but I am not pleased with the direction in which this is going. And I do think that the children of the school district deserve better and the taxpayers of the school district deserve better than what we're getting. I'm certainly going to continue to vote as I have voted in every election, and I'm not pleased with what I'm seeing as a taxpayer in this community. I hope that we can do better as a community. Thank you.
Joseph Pettit-Demonte, 219 Homer Avenue. I had 2 questions on agenda items. The location for the land that's being sold by Signal Hill, I just wasn't sure how close it is to school and what it would be zoned as, so whatever would move into there. And the second one I happened to notice was the retirement of Richard Baylor from middle school. Both my daughters had an opportunity to have him. One currently has him now. And the first thing he said when he met my daughter this year was, "How's Emily?" And it's been 7 years. He's stepped it up this year, like during tests, he's had virtual meetings to help them prepare for it. So as a parent, from somebody who's nervous for my daughter going to middle school, she's enjoying herself. She gets a lot of support from administration, from all of her teachers, which was my biggest worry because she was my most vulnerable child. So as a parent, I'm very appreciative, and I wanted to wish him happy retirement, wish he could stay longer, and not sure when it's effective. And I was going to step back and say something from a parent/teacher point of view. So I've been coming to the board meetings for about 26 years now. And sometimes I was the only one here. And the meetings we get done in about 7 minutes, and if that. I think it's great that a lot of people come. I've learned a lot over the years as far as what you can and can't do. When I ask a question, how it gets back to me, it doesn't always happen there. So I've learned to become more educated to it. I've also learned to appreciate the effort all board members have put into it. I see some of our old board members, their names are on the walls in our buildings because they were here back when they were built. So I always step back as a teacher in the district, but also as a parent, to realize I'm giving up my time at home right now that I have to run home to. But I appreciate each of you do it. We've accomplished full day kindergarten. That was a really important thing, realizing how few districts in the state of New Jersey didn't have it. Mr. Redford and I know each other well. He used to come into our building, so I've always given him my support. But as a teacher, we will work with whoever is the superintendent. We work well with Dr. Gentile. So our goal was always, as teachers, at least from my point of view, is whoever is our leader, we will work collaboratively with them. I've never looked at it as an adversarial position. And I feel bad because I've learned not to take things so emotionally insensitive over the years. It's hard, but it is hard when you do feel personally it's attacking your person, and it's a little hard. So I hope as things go on, it gets a little better and we can modify that. But I appreciate it and look forward to just finding out about the location for the lot. Thank you.
Hi, Tara Edel. As we discussed tonight, the superintendent is one of the most important decisions that we can make for our community, for parents. I'm sure the board has done their best, but I want to make sure that their due diligence has been done. I don't know whether or not what HYA has done in terms of looking into all the superintendents that are presented as a candidate. But the one that I am aware of that's coming into our township, I want to make sure that they are the best fit for us. I did my due diligence, which I'm sure other parents may have as well. This individual, won't say the name because I'll leave that to the board. That's their decision. But this person will be leaving their post in Willingboro 1 year short of their contract. Unfortunately, there are concerns as to whether this person will be the best fit for our district. There have been numerous grievances filed against this individual by both staff and parents, as well as harassment claims and a discrimination lawsuit filed in 2015 while this person served as superintendent in Irvington. Several staff members recently resigned, including the principal, and staff recently called for a vote of no confidence as a result of this person's leadership style. Teachers also raised concerns regarding a one-size-fits-all learning plan she instituted for every Willingboro student. As teachers and parents know, children certainly do not all learn the same way, resulting only, which can result in learning issues and reduced test scores. In addition, the school remained in remote learning only well beyond other school districts, and children continue to be masked without a mask optional choice for parents. These issues raise questionable leadership skills that may not be in the best interest of Voorhees staff, children, and parents. Again, since the hiring of school superintendent is one of the most important decisions the board has to make, I was going to mention, although it's been answered earlier, whether it would be prudent to hold off on this appointment, although you did address that, Monica, earlier, that you could not do so. But I just want to make sure that parents are aware of this. And hopefully we can work collaboratively with this new superintendent and provide her the supports needed to make sure that she is a best fit for our community. Maybe some of these issues can be addressed tonight by this candidate in light of these concerns.
Hi, my name is Marlene Kaplan. I have a wonderful granddaughter at the Crescent School. I would just request that you use microphones for the board meeting. There are several of you, and I moved up. I can't hear a word that you're saying. And if you want public support and public participation, please use microphones so that we can hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Board comments?
I just want to thank Helen and her team again for doing an unbelievable job with the budget, as you do every year. And I've told you this many times. I didn't think it could get better, but it has. Just want you to pass that along to you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments. We're very fortunate to have Helen. Very, very fortunate. So Helen and her team. Sorry. Thank you for all your hard work.
I want to, Helen was on my list, I'll check that off. Helen, really appropriately appreciated, but I know it's a team effort, Helen, so thank you and to your team. I also want to just spend a second to thank everyone who's worked on making the full day kindergarten happen. And separate from that, early childhood center, which we didn't have, been on the board for 7 years. And one of the first questions I asked when I got onto the board was, why don't we have full day kindergarten? And several board members who are no longer on the board looked at me sideways and said, no. And I'm really happy that we'll be watching kindergarten students walk in the fall for a full day of kindergarten. That's how it should be. And they shouldn't have to piece together what a half day looks like or be able to afford going to CER for a second half day to get a full day curriculum. So I'm really pleased to see that happen. And I thank everyone who's worked on that project for many years. I also just want to say thank you to all of you in the community who are recognizing that change is hard. And we all have to stick together and support each other as we work through change. In my personal professional life, I have had 4 supervisors in 4 years. It has been difficult. It has been a challenge. And it is something that has made me a stronger leader and has made me a better employee and has made me value the other parts of my job that are consistent, things I can rely on, my colleagues, the students. And I think it's really important for us to remember that change is hard, just like you see in your students, just like you see in your kids during COVID, that change was hard for them. And it's going to be hard for us. We need to come together to support each other as we move forward. So thank you, all of you who are recognizing that. I think you're recognizing that we're doing our best to make the best decision that we can for this district, and hope that you can join us in working together to move our district forward. That's really important to all of us. We took this decision very seriously, as Ms. Watson noted before. Thank you.
I am going to do one thing out of order because I failed to, Miss Haley, amongst all of her other wonderful attributes, keeps me in line. And it just slipped my mind that we did have lots of committee meetings. I was in all of them and I can't believe I forgot all of them. So I'm going to ask for the committee reports just quickly. Randy, if you could provide a brief synopsis, although, you know, Ms. Haley did do the finance.
Yeah.
Can you do a finance committee?
Well, I think Helen did a great job. And so I don't think I can add any more to her very thorough explanation of the budget. And I did spend a lot of time with her and Danielle on Tuesday morning, going over everything and getting a better understanding of how everything works. And They do an amazing job, and everything is, as perfect as it could be. So I give them a lot of credit for all their hard work. And I love their love of numbers.
Thank you, Joy.
And Ms. Cosenza, could you give a brief update on the Personnel Committee?
Yeah, on March 9th, 2022, we had a personnel committee meeting. At that meeting, we discussed the pending approval of the superintendent contract. We also discussed the submission, authorization of the business administrator and assistant superintendent contracts to the county. We also discussed buyback of vacation days for the business administrator and assistant superintendent during a state of emergency. And also the possibility of new positions that come about on the budget. And lastly, we discussed some creative solutions for the 22-23 school year.
Thank you. Okay, any additional regular board comments?
May I go?
Yeah.
One of the reasons, well, I should say, when I ran for election, one of my main foundations was communication and transparency. And today I did propose with Monica, just coming up with a overall, communication to not only our community, but to our taxpayers. So it's something that we are going to be working on. Some silly things as what's going on at the middle school, the new building. I didn't know what was going on there. How our money is being spent, job openings, how our community can be of use to us. And then the other item I wanted to talk about was the hiring of the new superintendent. It was, I guess, my first exposure to something like this as being so new to the board. I took it extremely seriously. I took it as a huge responsibility. I can tell you all, I've lost many nights sleep over the decision and the decision that was made, because I do take that responsibility so seriously. But I do think that maybe we should take time and take a step back. And I know we were behind with the county, but if we're so late, what would it matter if we take an additional week or two just to further investigate and just, dot our I's, cross our T's to make sure, moving forward that we have, 100% buy-in. No disrespect to the candidate. Every candidate was overly qualified. Every person that was brought to us was beyond impressive. I had no idea what I was going to encounter. So no disrespect to anybody, but that was my personal feeling. And I think maybe it would maybe have the community, be on the same page as everybody, and we can all, go into this as a team and have a positive experience if we take some time to further investigate and legitimize some of these concerns from the community.
Any other board comments?
I'd like to thank Mr. Pettit-Demarge for his comments. I thought his comments were very powerful. I've seen him in passing. I haven't really had much conversation with him. But I will say that a friend of mine who went to Osage many years ago continually speaks highly of him. And that was over 20 years ago. So I could just see the impact that he's making in the lives of children and those around him. And what he said, I thought was very, just kind of create a baseline where he didn't look at the position as adversarial. He looked at it as a way to be supportive of the continuing education that we have come known to be a part of. So I just thank him for those comments. And then I also thank this young lady right here for just challenging us to make sure that we're being inclusive to everybody as far as the microphone. So thank you for that. And to all the candidates who took the time out of their schedules and followed their heart to be a part of the interview process. It is a tough process, and I just really take my hats off to you guys for doing that.
Any other board comments? Moving to transportation. Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under transportation?
Second.
Voting has been opened.
Moment.
All transportation items have passed. Closing the voting.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under policy?
So moved.
Voting is open. All policy items passed. Closing the voting.
Can I get a motion to approve all items under personnel?
I'll move that.
Second.
I'm opening the online voting. I'm sorry, I didn't push the button. Sorry, I thought I did. I have 5 yeses, 2 nos, 1 abstention. I'll read them off. The yeses are Mr. Bryce, Ms. Cosenza, Dr. Levy, Mr. Schmus, Mrs. Watson. The nos are Ms. Galliano, Mrs. Stupler, and the abstention is Dr. Falk. That's 5 yeses, 2 nos, 1 abstention. Motion carries.
No deferred action. So sorry, wait, this is all new. I'd like to formally introduce the entire community to Dr. Neely Hackett. Dr. Hackett, if you wouldn't mind saying a couple of words.
Good evening, everyone. To the Voorhees Board of Education members, I want to thank you for your confidence, for providing me with the opportunity to serve the Voorhees family. I truly, truly appreciate your support and your confidence. To the Acting Superintendent, Mr. Redfern, I look forward to working with you as we engage in a collaborative effort to serve the Voorhees family. To the Voorhees staff members, I eagerly anticipate our partnership with each and every one of you as we pursue the ultimate goal of meeting the needs of each and every student in the Voorhees Township Public Schools. To the parents, guardians, and community stakeholders, I'm excited for the opportunity to work with each of you, as I believe that a quality education is a community commitment. In regard to our precious students, I anticipate the time that I will be able to meet each of them to lay the foundation that I am committed to their success. I'm honored to have been given the opportunity to serve as superintendent, and I commit to each of you a superintendent who is a good listener, a superintendent who is visible, a superintendent who is transparent, a superintendent who is collaborative, a superintendent who is passionate about teaching and learning, a superintendent who uses data to drive decision-making, but most importantly, I commit to you a superintendent who absolutely loves children. And I have loved students from the first day I walked into a classroom 28 years ago, and the journey continues. I look forward to meeting with all of the stakeholders and answering any questions that you have about my past experiences in education. I can say to the young lady who asked the questions. Other than the 2 years that I've spent in Willingboro, the remainder of your data is inaccurate, and I would love to sit down with you one day and go over my past. You're very welcome, ma'am. I look forward to engaging with all stakeholders, both in the district and in the community, and I look forward to our journey together. I promise you that I will roll up my sleeves from day one and work towards the students of the Voorhees Township Public Schools. That's what I've done for 28 years, and I will continue to do so. And I am so very happy to be part of this wonderful family. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I, for one, am so excited to work with you, and I cannot wait to see all of the wonderful things that you are going to do for the district and move us forward together. New business. Can I get a motion to approve all the items under new business? Marissa.
Online voting is open. All new business items passed. I'm closing the voting.
Next meeting is May 4th, 2022, at the Administration Building at 7 p.m. Audience participation. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the podium and write your name and address on the login sheet. If you are attending via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature to be acknowledged. While the board is limited in its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified by some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take.
Madam President, if I may?
Yes. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the board for allowing me to serve the students, the staff, and the community over this past year. You placed your trust in me. You haven't given me support as we navigated some complex challenges. Since taking over as acting superintendent, my only hope is to leave the Voorhees Township District in a better place than when I found it. I'm looking forward to continuing as acting superintendent and working to ensure a smooth transition to the 22-23 school year. As a Voorhees Township School District employee for over 30 years, I have never had to defend my reputation, my character, or my intentions. My father always told me that your name is the one thing that can never be taken from you. Defend it when it is needed, but always ensure that when it is mentioned with respect, trust, and dignity. It is the name that he gave to me, and it's the name that I've given to my daughters. Shortly after assuming responsibilities as acting superintendent, my personal employment information was cowardly leaked out to the community to be posted all over social media. I was attacked and portrayed as a union thug living a rich and famous lifestyle. I was accused of not advocating for our students, not caring about our community, and my only interest is serving my own self-interest. My actions to enforce an executive order was compared to the atrocities of Nazi Germany during World War II. On a Sunday morning in August, my only wish was to go to the gym with my daughter before she left for college. And we were berated and attacked in a parking lot because I was suffocating the children. I make no apologies. Our association has always had an open, respectful, and cooperative relationship with our board. We always attempted to find common ground, and we respectfully agreed to disagree when needed. My family undoubtedly will contest that we live a lifestyle of luxury. I will not address the comparisons of Nazi Germany. My primary goal this year was to open our schools to 5 full days of instruction. Except for 4 days pause after the holidays, we've accomplished that goal. As the director of CER, my programs routinely began at 7:00 a.m. and included 10:00 p.m., 7 days a week, occupying all 5 schools. In June, when schools and families start taking their summer pause, CER would be gearing up with over 1,500 students in a variety of activities across the district, once again from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. CER is and continues to be 100% financially self-sustaining, receives 0 tax dollars from any state or local agencies. The notion that this district is paying 2 superintendents is false. I was receiving a small daily per diem in addition to my compensation as director of CER. I have continued to oversee the CER programs that were brought to their knees with COVID. As per diem, when calculated, it probably falls short of the minimum wage from the 1970s. Early in my career, and there are Crescent teachers here to verify this, I spent countless hours helping to collect and deliver food to needy families during Thanksgiving. I gave my own time, utilized my own vehicle to help deliver toys to needy families during the holidays. I am the founder of the VTA volleyball tournament that for over 20 years provided scholarships for over 100 graduating high school seniors. During the 2008 financial crisis, I had many families reach out to me. They had to decide between putting a roof over their head and paying for childcare. During the pandemic, families had their work hours reduced, had to accept lesser paying positions, and reached out to me for help. Over the years, I've helped numerous families who have fallen ill or fell on hard economic times, and they needed assistance. And I helped every single one of those families. When the resource officer at Crescent School fell ill to ALS and eventually lost his battle, I sponsored the entire Crescent School staff so they could participate in an ALS walk in his honor. I have worked with Voorhees Basketball, Softball, Soccer Association, providing our students with practice and game facilities. I have worked with the VMS Drama Club and Voorhees Theater Company to provide rehearsal and performance space for our students. I have worked regularly with the Voorhees Police Department and Fire Department, providing meeting and training facilities so that they can better serve our community. I help provide meeting places for newly elected members of town council to hold town hall meetings. Over the years, I have helped numerous district projects to include technology, playground equipment, music equipment, physical education, and art supplies. Over the years, I have worked cooperatively with all PTA groups, providing meeting places and free camp vouchers for their fundraising efforts. I have stood and I have mourned over fallen students and staff. So to the community, with all due respect, if you are looking for someone to advocate for your students, work with the community, and support our staff, you don't need to look far. Thank you, Madam President.
I'm gonna go. Danielle Riggs, teacher at Osage. And you always manage to get the last word, always. And he can one up you. He's like best jokester. But I'm here tonight to thank you. It would be easy to say, thank you for taking that job as superintendent, but it's more than that. You stepped into this job during the middle of the pandemic. Emotions were all over the place. As teachers, we were tired. We were forced to reinvent how we delivered instruction and create inclusive classrooms. We couldn't touch our kids. We couldn't do hands-on. It was totally different. For those of us, sorry, Dr. Young, who've been around for a while, there used to be this big billboard on Route 73, Voorhees, the success address. And we even had license plates. And at the time, we were very young. And we used to think, oh my gosh, like really? But in hindsight, it was true. Like we were this model district. And I'm so proud and honored to be a part of it. When Mr. Redfern came in, he immediately restored our faith, not only in this amazing district, but in ourselves. For those of you who don't know, teachers we're our own worst enemies. We critique ourselves. It's constant. He had the difficult job of navigating the pandemic, listening to concerns of parents, teachers, administration, and deciding what was best for the students. Mr. Redfern has always put the kids first in every capacity. I've worked for him in CER. His wife is one of my longtime dearest friends. It's endless. When I was in graduate school, I had to write it, which, by the way, Mr. Redfern wrote me a letter of recommendation, had to write a paper on what makes an effective leader. But we weren't allowed to do all the things that check the boxes. You had to think outside of that. And I used Mr. Redfern as my example. I never shared it with him because, but here's a small snippet. Mr. Redfern exemplifies what a leader should be. He is present. He builds rapport with staff, students, and parents. He doesn't seek the limelight or a photo opportunity. He's not afraid to jump in and help in any situation. And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Redfern kicked it old school with the sub shortage and jumped into some gym classes because we needed the bodies. He creates an environment that is inclusive and embraces differing opinions. He looks at problems from different angles, not just a narrow lens. His voice does not have to be the loudest. He holds people accountable. He doesn't ask anyone to do anything he wouldn't do. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for being someone we can trust. Thank you for the time you must have taken away from your family, because God knows every time I drove by that administration building, your car was in there. I would be at the diner with my son after a late night hockey game and your car was there. Thank you for taking the time to visit our classrooms, and not just to get to know us as teachers, but getting to know our kids. I missed your visit yesterday, and one of the very first things my third graders said was, "You missed Mr. Redfern, you missed him. We solved the riddle." I've had the privilege of working in this district for longer than some of my colleagues have been alive. Mr. Redfern, Mike, you're everything that's good about Voorhees. Thank you for building on the amazing foundation and taking us on this extraordinary path. Because of you, we are stronger together.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Calabria, and I am the principal of the Voorhees Middle School, but I'm here to represent the administrators as the president of the Administrators Association. And we would like to just publicly recognize and thank Mr. Redfern for his unwavering support during his tenure as acting superintendent. Like many people have already said, it was a very difficult transition, and it was a very scary time to be an administrator during COVID. And we all came together, and it was mostly because of Mike, and just knowing we could trust him. I'm sorry, I'm going to lose it. He just stepped into a challenge by leading this district in a time of such chaos and turmoil. And he did it with character, he did it with integrity, and he did it with grace. He has guided and supported us. He has held open lines of communication, and he has been very collaborative in the decision-making process, which has proven to be invaluable in the recent months. So to Mr. Redfern, thank you for more than 30 years of dedicated service to the Voorhees schools and not hesitating to step into the role as acting superintendent. We appreciate you more than we can even begin to say. And it has been our honor and privilege to learn from you and work alongside of you. So thank you very much for everything that you have done for us. We really look forward to working with you.
Hello, I'm Tracy Rossi. I'm from Crescent School, third grade teacher. So this all started with my class went outside to visit our meadow that we have at Crescent School. It's named after Mr. Bristol. We noticed some trash and the kids quickly got upset and were like, we have to clean it up. And I was like, COVID, I don't know. So we went inside, we talked to Mr. Clark. Quickly, Mr. Redfern got involved, Mr. Mattis got involved, and it just wound up being an incredible experience for my children. And I wanted to read this, and I want to thank Mr. Redfern for all you do to make this district better. He took the time to be present for all of us and our students. I have taught in Voorhees for almost 32 years. I have never had a class know who the superintendent was. My class not only knows who he is, but when they see him in the hallway, they quickly come back to me and they're like, Mr. Redfern's here. You got to go find him. Did you see him? I didn't see him. I have to see him too. They get very excited. Mr. Redfern, we are so happy all the time to see you. Thank you for having an impact not only on all of the staff, but also the children. It truly is incredible and so great to see when they get so excited to see you and you touch all of us with not just words, but with actions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jen Bransford. A teacher at Crescent for 30 years, and I'm also a member of the community. There's so many things, but everyone's kind of said it before me. But I just want to say, first of all, I was really upset to miss the Real Housewives of TV tonight, but this kind of took the cake. At any rate, to make a statement that we are a broken district is the furthest thing from the truth. To say your words, Mrs. Watson, the exceptional leader next to you has made us Voorhees strong. And all of the reasons that my colleagues, esteemed colleagues, spoke about the amazing Mr. Redfern could not be anything but the truest words out there. Mr. Redfern, he has motivated us as a community, as a staff. The children love you. Again, everything that you said, you get there, you were wiping tables alongside teachers, you were bringing bussers breakfast and the drivers, you acknowledge everyone from the maintenance staff to a cafeteria worker, to the principals, to the teachers, to the kids, to the parents. And I just say, thank you so much for everything you did, my friend. You're going to be a tough act to follow because you are a consummate leader. Thank you.
Mr. Redfern, I just want to say, as a member of this community, as a parent, I'm going to miss you. You and I may have disagreed on the masking issue, but I respected the fact that I knew you were trying to do what you thought was best for this community and for our children. When my daughter went through cancer, you were there to listen to my concerns. You helped me through this time and assured me her needs would be addressed. I appreciate that. I worry what's going to happen next without your leadership here, because I respected you for listening to my concerns. Your door was always open. I knew I could count on you to come in at any time, and you would sit down with me on a one-to-one basis and listen to my concerns and do so without judgment. And I respected that. And I felt as though you listened. My daughter is going to miss that because she appreciated all that you did for her. You reached out and you ensured that she got the things that she needed, especially with the 504 plan, making sure she didn't fall behind. I struggled during that time, working with my daughter to make sure her educational needs were met, as well as doing my bit to come in as a Board of Education member. I went throughout the community, going house to house, all while worrying about my daughter, making sure that she was getting what she needed. But I knew that I wanted to make sure that all our kids were represented, just like my daughter was represented. And I appreciate everything you do. And I just want to make sure that you know that going out tonight. So thank you. Thank you for everything that you did for my child. Thank you.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Carrie Mann. I'm a teacher at Signal Hill, fifth grade. I grew up in Voorhees schools. I was an Osage kid and I loved Voorhees, so I was so happy that I was able to come back. But I just want to say a couple words to you today, Mr. Redfern. Great leaders don't seek power. They're called by necessity. Mr. Redfern, you were called to necessity at a time when our district needed a strong leader. I want to say thank you. You stepped in when we needed someone the most, someone we could trust to make decisions from neutral ground on how to best address the ever-growing needs of our students. You were the guiding light when morale was down and a feeling of hopelessness spread across us. You spent countless hours listening, researching, contemplating, and listening some more in order to lead our district forward in a positive way. You serve the parents, the staff, and the students well. It's been an honor to not only work beside you, but under you. You're a man of character, of strong morals. I hope you can continue to visit Signal Hill because our kids love when they see you. Thank you so much.
Tammy Wilhelm, you can unmute your mic and address the board.
Good evening, everyone. This is Tammy Wilhelm. I live at 3 Briarwood Drive in Voorhees. I've been a resident for 36 years and all 4 of my children have gone through our school system. Thank you to the board for volunteering to serve our community and trying and continuing to try to find a balance in all that you do. It is certainly not an easy task. Now I want to personally thank Mike Redfern for his leadership and service as our acting superintendent when our entire community needed him the most. As difficult as this year has been, he helped all of us deal with the ups and downs of this pandemic. His leadership ensured the safety of our students and staff. His encouragement, empathy, support, and confidence gave us hope for the future. His attention to detail and communication skills gave us the assurance that together we could make this school year a success, but safely. The actions taken to support the students, the parents, and the staff were critical to get us all through this crisis and back on the road to something normal for the school community. Mike has been an integral part of this community for over 30 years. He has dedicated his career and served Voorhees Township schools with integrity, honesty, respect, compassion, and a basic sense of fairness that has benefited our entire community. Thank you, Mike, for everything. You make us stronger together.
Charlene Ackerman, 23 Shenandoah Drive. I've had 2 children go through the Voorhees schools, and I currently have 2 children enrolled in Voorhees schools. And I just want to echo what the staff has said and what some of the parents have said, Mr. Redfern. You exemplify what I, as a stakeholder, would like in a superintendent. I've never seen all 5 schools as one as they are since you've been the leader. I've been impressed how you acted throughout the pandemic. I Did I like remote learning? No. Did anyone? I don't think so. But that was the safe and that was the right thing to do. And I appreciate that you use statistics and data to get to where you needed to be. I hope that you know that everything that you're hearing tonight is not only coming from the staff, but also coming from the residents. I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Board comments? Yes, go ahead.
Sucking back the tears over here, Mrs. Redfern, but I don't have a written speech, you know, I just fly up there. So, you are truly a shining star. When you gave that speech, tonight, I just wanted to stand behind you with your iPad and be like, oh, yes, you did that. Yes, you did that. When there were people in town who didn't know you and they were giving you a hard time, and my heart was breaking for you, and people are making, you know, comments to us or saying things who don't really know you, it was crushing. And you maintained class, you kept your character, you stayed cool, and you showed them what you're made of. You showed them that you truly are a shining star. And I just think the world of you. I think you're a gentleman. You're definitely an example of a man that I would want my kids to emulate. So thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you.
I don't think I can beat that, but and I'm not the teary-eyed type, but I do want to thank you for everything that you've done for the district. You know, getting to see it firsthand, getting to see the way that you led the district, it certainly made me a better person and a better leader. So I wanted to thank you for that. I want to switch gears for just 1 second, and on March 6th, there was a memorial called Black Balloon Day. I'm not sure if anybody in this room has heard of Black Balloon Day, but it's a memorial for the people who have died from the opiate epidemic. Just this past year, there have been over 100,000 people who have died, including many young people. It's one of the most heartbreaking things that I think our country is going through right now. There is something we can do about it. So I'd like to advocate for schools to start keeping rescue doses of naloxone in the nurse's offices. This is it's an intranasal medication. I'm not sure if we do it or not, but I want to make sure that we do, because it's something that's so important to protect our students and our staff.
Yes, we do have it in the max, but all of our nurses just got retrained on it. So yes, we do have it.
Okay.
All of our serves.
Okay.
Thank you. Like, I can't tell you, but thank you for stepping in a time of need, and you know, we greatly missed. And I know we're the fun. Thank you, though.
I'd like to personally thank Mr. Redfern. There was a time not too long ago that my family and I were really struggling. So when he speaks of having to make the decision between a family paying the rent or paying for a CER, whatever the case may be, he speaks the truth on that, because I benefited from knowing him and for him caring about my family. So first and foremost, I thank you for that. Secondly, I thank you for leading us out of the different things that we were going through when I first came on the board. That you can hear from the sentiments the teachers expressed to you, and those words, I mean, you can't put a price tag on that, and there can never be enough words to thank you for what you did. I'd like to also thank our fellow board members as well, because it took the courage for us to recognize that something was maybe amiss, and we needed to call the right person in to help shore the boat, so to speak. So I thank all my board members for us. And that was a tough decision that was met with a lot of pushback. but to see how it's celebrated, I think is just the fact that things always can evolve if we trust the process. So with that being said, I personally thank you, not only for what you did for me and my family, but also for what you've done for our district to just enhance and continue to help us evolve and hit that mark and leave that mark for people to follow and to try to obtain to. So thank you so much.
Can I speak? I wanted to also thank Mr. Redburn. It's amazing to hear how supportive his own staff is. And I know him and his wife have dedicated their whole careers to Voorhees, to our children, and they've made quite an impact on everyone and so many people in our community. So we are so fortunate. And he does put in many, many hours, because anytime I've sent him an email on a random time, I do get an immediate response. So his dedication is just so overwhelming. And I was fascinated to learn about CER and how much it does contribute back to our community. So that's a huge accomplishment as well. So thank you.
Mike, not much I can add to any of this, but I want to thank you on a personal level for taking my phone calls for years, finding me space when I needed space, repairing the things that were broken while I used that space. You know what I'm saying?
Let Helen hear it.
Yeah.
Mike, I'll say thank you to you, and I'll echo what many of the teachers said. Dr. Hackett, you have big shoes to fill, so I hope you're up for the challenge. Thank you.
So I will just, there's not much to add. And I don't think I'll be able to get through it without crying. I remember the phone call to you and you saying, "I'm sorry, what do you want me to do?" And I said, we really need you to step up and be the acting superintendent. And you were like, "Wait, what?"
Tomorrow.
You were like, "Wait, yeah, when?" And I was like, "Yeah, tomorrow." And there was no hesitation. You immediately just wanted to know what you needed to do, how to do it. You're extraordinary. And I have loved working with you. I'm going to continue working with you. You have great things in store for you. And I will leave it at that. And that's 2 meetings in a row. Okay, motion to approve all of the items under finance.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Voting is open. Motion carried unanimously. Closing voting.
There is no executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Adjourn.